What's up, everyone? Welcome back to the Vanguard Live. We've got a great show for you guys today. A couple really interesting stories to break down. Super excited to be back on the mic. How you doing, Zach?
Good. Four-peating this week. Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, all around Vanguard shit. So super excited to be back on the mic. As Gavin and I have noted in the past, we have reached the point of the year where it's actually extremely temperate in the studio. So it's just nice to be able to hang out in here. I got our energy bill for our apartment. It was so cheap last month. So honestly, riding a real high today. Had the most Kansas City thing happen to me this morning. I was driving home and saw a ginormous Ferris wheel where there is not normally one. And I was like, what the hell is going on? And there is a corn festival happening in downtown Kansas City this weekend. And they're calling it Corn-O-Copia. I just was like, this is Midwestern as fuck. I have to embrace this.
Yeah, that's funny as fuck. Thanks everyone for tuning in so much. Make sure to hit that like button. As Daniel says, boop that like button, Vanguardians. 5 for 5 tomorrow. I don't know about that, Daniel. We might need a day off. But maybe it depends on if some shit pops off. You know what I'm saying? That's kind of how we determine whether or not to go live. It's not just a matter of how lazy we are. It's more a matter of, is there something we feel compelled to talk about? So really just depends on if something happens, but luckily shit's been happening. So we're here to break it down as always. So yeah, what's up, everyone? Make sure to hit that like button. Like I said earlier, debate the hacks at the COVID couch. LOL, the couch potatoes. Yeah, probably not worth our time, to be honest. I don't really see the point of debating a fucking propagandist. I mean, might as well just debate a literal teleprompter that's just reading talking points, right? I don't see how that could really be all that constructive. But they are pretty funny.
Yeah, look, I mean, that's the whole deal, right? I mean, especially for somebody who's quasi-independent media, right? You can't be paid by a fucking government and then be like, well, I'm actually independent. It's like, no, you fucking forfeited that. And we only like to have debates with independent thinkers here. If you start cashing checks and writing for the, U.S. government weekly, then I don't have any interest in debating you either. But yeah, really appreciate everybody tuning in, including you, Carlos, especially you, Carlos. Love our hate watchers over here at the Hate Watch Guard. But yeah, as always, we do like to begin. Oh, shit. Already got a super chat for the day. Shout out to you, Brian. Always good to see you in the chat. AOC is a pro-war fraud. I'm glad she was finally called out for her support of Ukraine military funding while her constituents suffer. Yeah, that was an interesting video. I obviously, I agree that AOC should be pushing back way more against the war in Ukraine. I don't agree with any of her votes to send funding over there, but I just thought the guy really dropped the ball with him, constantly tripping over himself to suck Tulsi's dick when in reality she's out stumping for pro-Trump, pro-war candidates. Anyway, we've illustrated how she's inauthentically anti-war a bunch of times, so just pretty ridiculous.
Yeah, we can take a quick listen. Thanks so much for the super chat, Brian. And yeah, a lot of people are talking about this, of course, AOC getting called out. So let's take a quick listen.
Congresswoman, none of this matters unless there's a nuclear war, which you voted to send arms and weapons to Ukraine. Tulsi Gabbard, she's left the Democratic Party because there are a bunch of war hawks. Okay, you originally voted, you ran as an outsider, yet you've been voting to start this war.
It's not like Tulsi was even an active member of the Democratic Party. You know what I'm saying? She's a freaking private citizen. She's a Fox News commentator. Of course, she left the Democratic Party. So that is kind of funny. It's not like Tulsi Gabbard left the Democratic Party while she was actually in Congress. That would have been a little bit more admirable if she was like, I'm an independent now, or I'm a libertarian or whatever, while she was actually in power. But now she's just a fucking talking head on Fox News. So who really gives a fuck what she does or says? But anyway, yeah, AOC getting called out.
Ukraine, you're voting to start a thermonuclear war with Russia and China. Why are you playing with the lives of American citizens? You're playing with our lives.
There will be no neighbors if there's a nuclear bomb. You voted to mobilize and send money to Ukrainian Nazis. You're a coward. You're a progressive socialist. Where are you against the war mobilization? He's telling the right truth. You have done nothing. Tulsi Gabbard has shown guts where you've shown cowardice. I believed in you, and you became the very thing you sought to fight against. That's what you've become. You are the establishment, and you are the reason why everybody will end up in a nuclear war unless you choose to stand up right now and denounce the Democratic Party.
Denounce
Will you do that?
the Democratic Party.
Yes or no? Okay, simple. Are you going to stop nuclear war? Yes or no? There is no line because this is bullshit. None of this matters if we're all dead. None of it. You know that. Then let's take it up right now because this is the only thing that matters. This is the only thing that matters right now. We could be in a nuclear war at any minute and you continue to fund it. That's what's going on. Why not right now? You're the liar here. Nobody has held you accountable. That's what's happening. And it is time for you to stand up and realize that what you've been saying has been lies. Let your conscience come through for once.
Yeah.
Congresswoman!
Yeah, exactly. It really does invalidate it, not just for the people that are listening. Also, someone says they can't hear you, Zach. Alex says he can't hear anyone. Can you hear me? No, what's going on?
Can you guys hear me now? You can't hear me at all? I can hear myself in the headphones, which is weird.
I can't hear you either. What the hell? We are not muted. What the hell? Okay, we can hear me. According to Tiberius, you were muted. Wow, I guess I'll just take over the Vanguard, guys. I'm not letting Zach back in. I'm not letting Zach back in, guys. It's the Gavin guard now. Feels nice to have my own show. This is pretty cool. Did you? I think you're just muted, right?
It says it's not picking up audio from me now. Let's see. All right, you guys.
You're good now.
Hear me? Okay.
Yeah, we're good now. Anyway, repeat what you said about Tulsi and how she's stumping for pro-war candidates now.
Oh, yeah. So, Gavin, I didn't even realize that you tweeted this out last night. But essentially, former Representative Tulsi Gabbard, right? She's out stumping for retired Army General Don Bulldog, who recently won the GOP primary, and he's like very Trump aligned. But if you go through, in fact, Mike Preisner pointed this out in a thread to Jordan Cheriton. He said, ironically, she is now stumping for a big Ukraine war hawk. He first called for the deployment of U.S. troops there to fight Russian forces. Recently wrote that the U.S. must destroy the Kremlin through heavy military support. So it's really just laughable to me. The people that come out here and act like Tulsi Gabbard, is somehow this like, principled anti-war candidate. It's some real bird brain stuff because you have to like look in the face of a bunch of contradictory information and then still be like, you're the only one that's in on the real truth. Let me just like use this as a wedge to like reprimand AOC, who obviously deserves reprimanding, but so does Tulsi Gabbard. And it just gives AOC an easy way to dismiss you when she's like, oh, fuck this person that's always on Fox News every night. This is just like a right-wing instigator. And in fact, it's not untelling that the person that's doing this video, I think, was tweeting about how they voted for Trump twice, and yet they were a big Tulsi stan, right? Like, it kind of adds up. This is what we've been calling for a while.
Yeah, it's really a shame that guy had to bring up Tulsi because his if you leave that out, it's pretty based, right? Like what he's saying about AOC is correct. I think it's good that she was confronted about these votes and the fact that the Democrat policy is bringing us to the brink of nuclear war. Like that's all totally fair to point out. But when you connect the anti-war argument to a grifting clown like Tulsi Gabbard that literally no one takes seriously outside of a small echo chamber of fucking losers online, then it makes the whole position look dumb to everyone on the outside looking in. Everyone's going to watch this video that's just a normal person. As soon as they hear, why aren't you more like Tulsi Gabbard? They're going to immediately tune it all out and say, well, this is just a bunch of right-wing jackals that are being idiots. So it's really unfortunate that he had to bring Tulsi into that, because we'd be out here giving him credit if he had just, said what the stuff about the votes. And, I still give him some amount of credit. It's still pretty cool to, confront a representative like that and hold them accountable. I'm never going to have an issue with people voicing their concerns to elected officials and trying to hold public officials accountable. There's nothing wrong with that at all. As Christina said, all elected officials need to be held accountable. So, I really don't have any issue for that. Again, it's just kind of a shame that he had to cringe it up there with all the Tulsi references.
Yeah, that's the thing. And of course, I don't agree with anybody because there are always the people that want to like pearl clutch and pretend that any criticism of AOC is like fucking violence directed at like the queen or whatever. Like, no, I don't give a fuck how this guy was, any of the guys. I think there were two guys that spoke in the video. I don't give a fuck how either of them were addressing AOC. The only substantive criticism is I was like, on your face, you're fucking up your whole argument by, trying to use this, not really like it, a literal proponent of the U.S. Armed Forces. Like she is to her credit, she will announce this about herself. The minimal credit you can give for somebody for just being honest about their position. She'll say, yes, we talked about this yesterday. It's an honorable path. I think it's good when poor kids are suckered into this just so that they can, get their teeth cleaned and like fix whatever pain they're in and go to the doctor finally. Yeah, I think that's a great incentive program. Like ridiculous. But yeah, Tulsi's a clown and so are her followers at this point. But she's largely just irrelevant as anything but a talking head and a rather poor one, to be honest.
Absolutely. And your mic is plugged in, right, Zach? It's working.
Yeah.
Okay. Just making 100% sure. You weren't muted or anything. I was just like, for some reason, the audio might have sounded a little weirder, but it's fine. And once again, thank you so much, Brian, for the $4.99. Really appreciate that. You brought this up, so that's why we talked about it. Thank you also, Alex Kahn, for the $4.99. I worked for a pro-Ukraine war candidate. I loved the candidate, but cringed when we had to talk about Ukraine. Yeah, I mean, obviously, nothing but solidarity to the normal working people of Ukraine, the people that have been displaced, the people that have been murdered in this senseless war. Like, it's horrible what's going on, but I just don't necessarily think that given our track record here in America, we should be intervening in those affairs. Maybe if the U.S. had a perfect, clean slate and we never fucked up, then maybe I would say, yeah, we should be helping the Ukrainians, but that's not the case. Unfortunately, the U.S. uses these humanitarian interventions as a way to justify our imperialist policy. So you can't really just make exceptions for certain countries or certain situations if you're an anti-interventionist like I am. So that's kind of my stance about the whole issue, as you guys know. And we're going to be talking a little bit about that later because Vaush actually went after the Majority Report crew recently for actually making a lot of sense and just making basic pro-peace arguments. So we're going to talk more about the Russia-Ukraine conflict later in the show. Make sure to stay tuned for that, guys.
Yeah, absolutely. If there's one thing that you can kind of predictably tell about Vaush is that anytime that anybody mentions de-escalation or, not fanning the flames of this war from the United States, it's going to go back to the 1930s and how you didn't want to stop Hitler. But we'll see where he goes. I haven't seen this exact clip, but
that's exactly where he goes.
I told you, I haven't even seen the clip. I was like, you would have been one of the people carrying that Hitler never attacked us. I guarantee you that's where he goes. I know Vaush's content too well. He has one argument. It always goes back to, well, in the 1930s in Germany. And I'm like, yeah, okay, I'm fucking ready for this guy. Anyway, we're going to get to that, Alex. I hope my mic is working. It says it's working over here.
Yeah, no, it's working fine now. Thank you so much, Alex. And also, once again, appreciate you, Brian. For the record, I agree Gabbard is pro-war and in general is horrible, but AOC should still be held accountable for her votes on Ukraine. 100%. That's my position as well, Brian. So really, really appreciate your super chats, man. And again, thanks for bringing up this story.
Yeah, 100%. Shout out to you, Brian. Always love seeing you in the chat. Just a random comment I saw, it's not just because we disagree with Tulsi that because she goes on Fox News a couple of times. Like friend of our show, Glenn Greenwald, he goes on Fox News whenever the fuck he wants to, and we come on and we have good discussions with him. The thing about Tulsi is that she has just pivoted so blatantly on every single fucking issue that she ever claimed to support in clear effort to go and maximize her grift. Like she's abandoned any conversation about Medicare for all, about a Green New Deal, about any of the things that she supposedly cared about like 2 months ago.
Right, absolutely. And thank you also, Das Bosa Fleisch, for the $5.99. Really appreciate that, man. Here's some money for a red on-air light when your mic is active. That's a good idea. That would be dope. I don't know how to set that up, but that would definitely be something to look into.
Yeah, it's funny because it said that you guys could hear me every single time I was talking, but apparently that was not the case. So yeah, Shout out to you, Dasbos Fleisch. Always great to see you in the chat. You are still the favorite name of any of our super chatters. Vanguard for life, boy. Yeah, well, that's okay. Ban Zach, yeah. Who's gonna do yeah.
Anyway, yeah.
Have no
we're
rhymes
having
at the
fun.
beginning of our podcast. What would you guys do without me?
Exactly. Yeah, we're off on a tangent here. We did want to quickly shout out our patron community. We forgot to do that at the top of the stream. So a huge shout out to our patrons. If you guys are interested in joining the Patreon community, the link's in the description. It always is. So hit that up if you enjoy our show, if you want to see more, if you like our perspective, if you think we're fucking hilarious. Might as well hit that link up, right? It's a great way to support independent media. And it's a cool way to have your name on the shout out screen too. If that's something that interests you, it's also a good way to get access to our Discord community and some other cool perks. But yeah, we do like to shout out our patrons at the beginning and end of every live stream. So thank you guys so much for the support. We wouldn't be able to do the show without you.
Oh, yeah, of course. As I like to say, you keep the wheels on our van going round and round and round, and an ounce of financial stability in Gavin and I's life. So we really appreciate you guys. As Gavin says, we can't do the show without you, so it really means a lot. And I'm always a little bit like fucking flattered when I look at how many fucking names are on that Patreon board. Obviously, we have a smaller show, but when I look at that, I'm like, holy shit. This is a lot of fucking people who think that our fucking show is worth their time and, their compensation. So, it is always cool to have a look at that fucking Patreon board at the beginning of the show.
Absolutely. Yeah. Huge shout out to all the patrons. Thank you so much for the support. It really means everything to us. And again, we wouldn't be able to do the show without you guys. So, also thank you so much, Mike H, for the $2. The Chiefs are underdogs at home. Thoughts? Are we underdogs? We just won our last couple games, right?
Yeah, but we're playing the Bills, and the Bills are a powerhouse team. I was actually talking to my buddy Peyton about this last night. He's a huge sports gambler, so he always gives me the 4-1-1 on what's going to go down in the week. And he was like, "Oh man, I don't know. It's not looking good. The Bills are 4-1, and they look fucking nasty right now. And the Chiefs have been playing like dog shit and barely scraping by on these past couple of games. If we lose to if we play like we played against Indianapolis or like we played against the Raiders, you can't start 17-0 against a team like the Bills. So it's going to be a tough game. But coming into Arrowhead, I think that they've got a better chance than I think a lot of people are thinking that we do. So I'm really excited to watch the game. But yeah, it's going to be a tough ball game. And even my buddy Peyton, who was a diehard Chiefs fan, was like, "Hey man, this might be the game where the Chiefs really get their fucking ass handed to them. We haven't seen it in a long time. This could be the game where we fucking get started." So, we'll see. It all depends on how we play. I'm worried that, and not to just go off on a sports tangent, we lost Tyreek Hill in the offseason, and we've had a lot of trouble building trust and consistency with any of our new wideouts. So the ball constantly is moved to Travis Kelce. And even when you double up Travis, he can get open sometimes, but we don't have that other guy that can be like a go-to target for Patrick Mahomes. He doesn't trust any of our newer guys. Juju Smith-Schuster hasn't really picked up the slack that we thought he was going to. And then there's that other rookie that dropped a few passes. So anyway, that's kind of my analysis, but I'm fucking hoping we win. It'll be a good game. So
yeah, absolutely. Hopefully, I think they'll win. You know what I'm saying? I think they'll win. And yes, this is a sports show now. We're going to be talking about the Chiefs for the whole entire show today. We need critical thinking. Just kidding. That's it for the sports commentary. I did want to start by talking a little bit about Andrew Yang. We're just going to do a quick segment on Andrew Yang before we get into the Kim Iversen stuff. So let's take a look here. This was something that we've been predicting for a while. Actually, if you guys have been paying attention to our commentary on Andrew Yang and the Forward Party, let's take a look here at the progress from the Forward Party, because there are some good faith progressives and some people that are genuinely interested in seeing a third party succeed that have kind of been cautiously optimistic about the Forward Party, saying well, let's give it a chance. It's better to disrupt the establishment, even if it's Andrew Yang that's doing it, all this kind of bullshit. Well, let's see some of the progress that the Forward Party's made. Andrew Yang's Forward Party failed to field any federal candidates this cycle. But they have now endorsed 3 U.S. Senate candidates: U.S. Senator Lisa Murkowski, U.S. Senator Mark Kelly, and Evan McMullen from Utah, who, if you guys remember, actually ran for president, tried to basically split the vote in Utah to prevent Donald Trump from winning the state. He was never a serious candidate at all. He was really just a spoiler. So this is fucking hilarious to me and literally confirms everything we've been saying about the Forward Party since the beginning, which is that it's not a real third party. It's not a real third party. If your idea of a third party is we're going to endorse corporate Democrats, corporate Republicans, and every once in a while, a corporate independent. Sorry, but that's not a fucking third party, bro. That's a glorified PAC that just endorse establishment candidates. And the funny thing is, something else we said from the beginning is that this whole Forward Party was really just going to be a rebrand of Andrew Yang's previously existing PAC, Humanity Forward, which already did this exact same shtick. They endorsed Democrats, Republicans, and a couple independents. They did this in the 2020 election cycle, and now they're going to do it in the 2024 election cycle. But now he's duded it up and dressed it up as this third party, even though it's fucking not, just so he could get a bunch of articles written about him, so he could sell more books, so he could get on TV to talk to the fucking CNN hosts about how he's going to save the world by joining arms with the Lincoln Project or whatever the fuck. But this is just absolutely hilarious. You know, Lisa Murkowski is a never Trump Republican. Mark Kelly is a conservative Democrat, and Evan McMullin is a totally corporate independent. Again, just because he's an independent doesn't make him a progressive or a socialist or anything like that. All of these candidates are total corporatists, total fucking corporatists to the core. And again, I just think it's so funny that after all this talk of, oh, Andrew Yang is starting a third party, this is what we get. And just those people saying, well, wait until 2024 and then they're going to run an actual candidate. Yeah, they're probably going to run Mark Cuban and prop that up like it's a real option, a real alternative to the two-party duopoly. What a fucking joke.
Yeah, sorry guys. I was trying to make sure that my audio was all clear. I hope that it's rocking and rolling well again. But yeah, this is a fucking joke. Lisa Murkowski, I think what they're trying to do, honestly, is they're just trying to have like an collective pick of winners this time around, right? Like people who are probably going to win. Like Mark Kelly is looking pretty good in that Arizona Senate race. Lisa Murkowski is a Republican that's pretty like, you know, she's kind of dumb because she really is there just to play like ball for the Republican Party and like pretend that she's like going to be like a more liberal Republican. But then, you know, when the rubber hits the road, she really, I mean, like she always sides with the Republican Party. I mean, very rarely does she dissent. And so I just think it was one of those, like, how do we please the people who consider themselves enlightened centrists? You go with like a more Republican leaning Democrat like Mark Kelly, and you go with a, you know, supposedly like more liberal leaning Republican like Murkowski. They're also more name recognizable candidates, right? Like I feel like people who followed this enough to be invested in the Forward Party, names like Lisa Murkowski and Mark Kelly are names that people know in American politics. They're more established names. Evan McMullin, a lot of people remember from his presidential run, but also the fact that he's an independent. I just think that what they're trying to do is they're trying to like establish some clout for themselves. And what it'll do is then Andrew Yang will be able to say, yep, the Forward endorsed 3 of the winning Senate candidates. And, you know, see, this is what people are looking for. And they're going to do like that head fake, like marketing bullshit to make it seem like the reason that these candidates won were because they were part of a broad cadre of like different ideas, but all enlightened centrism and that kind of thing. I imagine that's where he's going with it. It's total bullshit. And of course, as we said all along, it's just to increase his clout, inflate his net worth, and sell more bullshit books.
Yeah. And again, it's just crazy. Like, how many third parties do you guys know of that endorse fucking Democrats and Republicans? Like, do you see the Green Party out here being like, you know, this time we're going to endorse corporate Democrat Mark Kelly? Or like, do you see the Libertarians going out here and endorsing Republicans? No, because they're third parties. They're against the two parties. I just find this so funny. And again, it's not even like he endorsed progressive Democrats, because there are some actual progressive Democrats that are running for Congress that would probably, you know, deserve an endorsement from the Forward Party if they were actually interested in being anti-establishment. A candidate we've had on the show multiple times is Maybe a Girl, who's running in California against Adam Schiff. She's a serious progressive. She doesn't take corporate PAC money. She stands with the working class. And she's not, you know, endorsed by the fucking Forward Party. Again, there are actual progressives and actual third party candidates that could use any attention possible. Matthew Ho, for example, is running for Senate in North Carolina as a Green Party candidate. And Andrew Yang has even tweeted in support of Matthew Ho before, but for some reason, he's not part of this list. He's not part of the federal candidates being endorsed by the Forward Party. Now, to be fair, maybe that's because he didn't apply for their endorsement, and maybe these other people did. But I mean, I guess Lisa Murkowski applied for the Forward Party endorsement. I don't think she would have done that, but maybe. But again, there are actual third party candidates running. They could use your help. Again, Matthew Ho is a serious candidate running for Senate in North Carolina. Why is he not on this list? Why are you endorsing candidates from the Republican Party and the Democratic Party and still calling yourself a third party? This is not a third party. It's literally just a glorified rebrand of Humanity Forward, which Andrew Yang already had the last election cycle and which served the exact same function, which was to endorse Democrats, some Republicans, and a few independents. So it just blows my mind. And again, we've literally been calling this for months now, since the very beginning, that this was a massive grift, that he's not interested in challenging the establishment in any way, shape, or form. He's not interested in challenging capital. He's not interested in challenging the oligarchy. He's interested in reaffirming their control over all of us. You think fucking Lisa Murkowski and Mark Kelly are the kind of anti-establishment candidates that are going to break up the duopoly? Are you fucking kidding me?
Yeah, I mean, 100%, right? And I think it comes down to, I think that maybe in the most charitable sense, you could compare it to kind of what the Working Family Party does, which is just like, oh, we just endorse like the least worst Democrat or whatever the hell is like their strategy. But I mean, nobody really considers them like a viable third party. It's not like they get discussed in the same breath as like the Libertarian Party and the Green Party, which was very much how Andrew Yang was framing this. He would say, we have more signups than X, Y, and Z for the Green Party, or we're the fastest growing party since, whatever. So clearly he was trying to position himself in the Forward Party like a, not the Green Party, not the Libertarian but not left, right, forward, whatever. And it's just completely blown back in his face. And again, it's because he's not actually serious about changing anything. And that's how he can stay in these affluent circles. He realized that there was a lane for holier than thou centrism that we aren't holier than thou centrism that, isn't a threat to the moneyed elite. So it's just a distraction from any kind of like actual, effort. Like, somebody super chatted, I think, asking about if any of these candidates actually support UBI still. And I don't think that he even still has that as a fucking barometer. Brian, yeah. Do any of the candidates Yang is endorsing even support UBI? No, of course Lisa Murkowski doesn't support UBI. Mark Kelly's not running on UBI. Like, no, he gave up all of that. All it is an empty, vacuous, clout chasing mission. It's all about how can I promote me, myself, and my like Silicon Valley capitalist vision for equality and centrism, or whatever the fuck he's like bemoaning about. But we went through it as soon as it came out. There wasn't a single policy at all for them to unite on, let alone UBI, but not even anything. There was nothing that brought them all together, other than the fact that they considered themselves holier than the fucking two-party system.
Yeah, even though apparently they don't, because they're endorsing candidates from within the two-party system. And yeah, you're absolutely right. There's nothing about UBI. Andrew Yang seemingly doesn't. He's only tweeted about UBI once this entire year. The Forward Party is in no way basing its identity around the concept of a universal basic income. These are their priorities: free people, thriving communities, and vibrant democracy. Literally a fucking parody of a political platform, an absolute fucking parody of a centrist political platform. That means nothing. Republicans, Democrats, Independents, Green Party, Nazis, they all believe in they all say they believe in this stuff. Everyone says they believe in free people, thriving communities, and vibrant democracy, literally from one end to the spectrum to the other. Everyone pretends to agree with those things. You can't just throw out vague platitudes and pretend like that's a platform. At least if UBI was still part of it, then that would be one substantive progressive policy that would actually help working class people. But just saying, oh yeah, we're in favor of democracy and we're in favor of free people. Like, it's literally I support good things and not bad things. It's straight up. So it's so funny. But again, we've been telling you guys this for a long time, while other people have been, have been tricked by Andrew Yang. We saw through his fucking shit from the beginning.
Yeah, 100%. Look, I mean, yeah, it's almost laughable where this guy's gone to, right? Like he kind of was this like sort of like quasi interesting candidate at one point, and then the more you learn about him, the less likable he became, basically, until you end up here. But yeah, shout out to you, Audie the Bug Catcher, as well, for that super sticker. We really appreciate it.
Sorry about that. Had to find your super sticker. Thank you so much, Adi. Really, really appreciate that. And because we're talking a little bit about third parties, because we were, talking about Matthew Ho, I did just want to say shout out to Matthew Ho. Really, really big fan. He just put out this ad, asked us to retweet it. So everyone go check out, Matthew Ho on Twitter. Check out his new ad. He's actually a serious working class third-party candidate running as a green, running on a serious substantive platform. So we're big fans of Matthew over here at the Vanguard, and we hope to see him succeed. It's too bad that the Forward Party, which claims to care about third-party candidates, didn't, recognize him in any way or add him to their list of endorsements, again, which they would have if they were actually serious about challenging the two-party system. So shout out to Matthew for actually fighting for third-party victories and for third-party goals. And we did have a couple more super chats as well. Thank you so much, Eric, for the $5. Casey, local and new listener here. Love you guys. Keep up the good work. Thank you so much, Eric. So glad you're enjoying the show. And we always really love hearing from our Casey comrades.
Yeah, it's always based when people that are local listen to the show. We, we need all of the local lefty energy that we can muster. So shout out to you, Eric, and thanks so much for the $5.
Absolutely. We also have a documentary coming soon about some local Casey issues. I don't want to spill the beans, but super excited about that. We are in KC, not Kentucky, Lloyd. I think that's what KY is, right? Kentucky. Yeah, we're in Missouri, Kansas City, Missouri, but appreciate that. Anyway, thank you also Meal for the $10. Curious if y'all have been watching Counterpoints with Emily and Ryan. I find I usually skip to their monologues, but I want them to succeed because I like the idea of BP branching out. I've seen some of the Counterpoint segments. Yeah, it just kind of depends on what they're talking about and how much interest I have in the subject. But yeah, I'll watch them every once in a while, and I think that usually it's a pretty good discussion.
Yeah, I've actually quite enjoyed it, to be honest, for the most part. Like, I haven't religiously watched every single clip that they've put out, but one of the things I really do like listening to Ryan about is he really has his thumb on the midterms really, really well. I mean, this dude is a guy that has a lot of information always coming at him, and I feel like his analysis and his prognostication is always worth hearing out. So that's mostly what I follow Counterpoints for. To be honest, I actually don't listen to the monologues as often. I mostly just listen to the clips and the banter between the two of them. But yeah, I think it's good stuff, and I think that it's really informative, and I think that it adds a nice bit of more research. I don't know, not that Crystal and Saga aren't research. It's just a different vibe, right? I don't know, it's a little bit different in a way that I think works well for them, and I like it.
Yeah, they have a good dynamic, that's for sure. Yeah, for sure. I really like the segment they did about Katie Halper too. That was a good one. But thank you so much for the super chat, Meal. Thank you. Really appreciate the $10. Thank you also, Mike H, for the $2. Trolls in the chat. Yeah, I think I banned the trolls, so we should be good. But yeah, thanks for letting us know, Mike.
Yeah, exactly. Shout out to you, Mike. Appreciate you in the chat as always.
Really appreciate that. And let's move on to Kim Iversen. Speaking of the Forward Party, do you know that Kim Iversen's actually she works for the Forward Party in some form?
I forgot about that if she does.
Yeah, she's like a spokesperson for them or something. Also, thank you so much, Adi, for the $5. Got very little sleep. Brain isn't working, so not able to contribute to the convo today, but still wanted to send a few super chats. Cheers. Thank you so much, Adi. We really appreciate that $10 super sticker earlier, and glad that you're hanging out in the chat. Obviously, no need to contribute any big brain thoughts today if you're feeling a little bit sleepy. But appreciate you tuning in as always, man.
Yeah, really appreciate you, Adi. Always good to see you in the chat. And yeah, I think that catches us back up. Did you want to go ahead and get to that Kim Iversen shit? So Kim Iversen over here, this is hilarious. This is fucking unbelievable. You would think that this was a joke, but it's not. This is very, very real. And I think that this is very indicative of the kind of brain rot that happens to people when they get really surrounded by their own echo chamber in the YouTube internet world, where they just cannot see the forest from the trees, and they just cannot see how hypocritical they are.
Absolutely. Yeah, let's take a look here, guys. So as you might have heard, Alex Jones lost another lawsuit yesterday, another defamation suit to the family members of the Sandy Hook massacre. Alex Jones has to pay almost $1 billion for spreading and profiting from lies about the Sandy Hook massacre, a Connecticut jury said. So this news dropped yesterday. And most people were like, good, fuck Alex Jones. He's a piece of shit. He's been profiting off of this libel and this defamation for a long time. And these family members had every right to take him to court over it. This is textbook defamation. Sorry, textbook defamation. There's no arguing that this is not defamation. But Miss Kim Iversen, formerly of Rising, you guys might remember her. She weighed in here and says, it's such a dangerous precedent to set. One should be allowed to say that an event, any event, is fake and should then be allowed to state their reasoning no matter how absurd. So she's coming out against this and saying, no, actually, these family members of the Sandy Hook victims should not have been able to sue for defamation because Alex Jones should be able to say whatever he wants without any consequences whatsoever, even if it qualifies as defamation, which again, it absolutely does. This is stupid for a lot of reasons. For one, Alex Jones did not just simply state that the event was fake. If he had just simply stated that the event was fake, then he wouldn't have been sued for defamation. A ton of people said that about Sandy Hook. There's thousands probably of right-wing commentators and conspiracy theorists on the internet that said that and that are not having to pay $1 billion for defamation. Again, lots of people said that about Sandy Hook. Lots of people said that about 9/11. Lots of people said that about every big event. There's always going to be conspiracy theorists, and you can say that those events are fake, and you're not going to get fucking sued for it. The problem is that Alex Jones implicated the family members and smeared them as crisis actors, said that they were just props and that what happened to them didn't actually happen to them, which forced them to have to move multiple times, got them tons of death threats in the mail, tons of hate mail in general for years and years. That's the defamation. It's not that he said that Sandy Hook didn't happen. It's that he specifically implicated multiple human beings with actual lives and identities into the conspiracy theory, which in turn ended up negatively affecting their lives, aka defamation. That's the definition of defamation. So he absolutely committed defamation. It's been proven now multiple times in the court of law. And if Kim Iversen had just tweeted this out in an isolated vacuum, maybe that'd be one thing. Maybe you say, okay, well, she's a free speech absolutist. Some people genuinely don't believe that defamation and libel should even be a punishable offense. Some free speech absolutists do hold that position. And if she wanted to hold that position with principle, that would be one thing. However, Kim Iversen has unfortunately not been consistent on this issue. So again, she says one should be allowed to say that an event, any event is fake and should be allowed to state their reasoning no matter how absurd. This is a dangerous precedent to set. And by the way, this is not a dangerous precedent to set. This is not the fucking Supreme Court. This was like a civil suit. There is no precedent. Anyway, remember this, guys, from just a few months ago? July 9th, 2022. And of course, I reminded her of this on Twitter. We replied to her tweet. This was Kim Iversen literally 3 months ago. Humanist Report wrongly stated as a fact that I dislike trans people. This is defamation of character and I plan to take legal action. If I were you, I'd gather solid evidence of my dislike for trans to present to a judge. And you guys probably remember we covered this at the time, roasted the absolute hell out of Kim Iversen for being such a thin-skinned snowflake, unable to handle a little minute amount of criticism from a YouTuber that gets a fraction of the views that she did at the time. Absolutely the most thin-skinned snowflake shit I've ever seen. But it's made particularly hilarious by just how hypocritical this looks now when she's saying that no one should ever be able to sue anyone ever for defamation and that these family members didn't deserve to be able to sue Alex Jones when they got defamed. But when a YouTuber says something mean about me, when a YouTuber calls me a bigot, that's where the legal line should be drawn. That's defamation. That's slander. Completely and utterly clown shit.
Defamation is when mean tweet. This is absolutely ridiculous. So let's just take this from the top. One, let's talk about the fact that Alex Jones is worth like $250 million, and that's not including all of the fucking weird money that he probably has stashed other places, right? And the value of his actual show and company, InfoWars. So when people are fucking pearl clutching about this number, acting like Alex Jones is some like humble fucking YouTuber sitting in the fucking corner with his like fucking, you know, setup like me and Gavin, and this just such a danger. No, it doesn't. You're just giving away your colors. Aren't you guys the fucking Law and Order people? Aren't you guys the ones that are talking about how the left doesn't care about law and order anymore and how we hate the police and all this kind of stuff, right? It's a fucking excuse for like, oh, this guy is on video and he beats the fuck out of a bunch of people. And you're like, that guy should go to jail. And I'm like, oh, really? Should we put all of the United States government in jail for the violence that they did in Afghanistan? Let's keep that guy out on the road until everybody's held accountable. You guys would not accept that logic. But this is essentially what's being done right now. People are saying, well, there are other people that did what Alex Jones did, or like the New York Times has lied and done things that are defamation. It's like, yeah, let's punish them for it. But what we don't say is, oh, yeah, let's let this guy off scot-free because people I hate more haven't been punished for this. It's like, no, what is the punishment for this crime? Let's punish you for it. A guy fucking killed himself because of the fucking harassment that he experienced as a direct result from InfoWars spreading misinformation and defaming him. Okay, he shot himself after he lost his young child. Do you imagine the devastation that this man was going on? It's almost unthinkable. And then to have, so all of that, it makes it a little more people, like I can even feel myself a little bit. The fact that, you know, it's such a cruel thing that Alex Jones was doing. Yeah, that heightens it. It does. That's how fucking juries work. Your job when you are the prosecution is to go in there and make that guy look like a piece of shit. Fucking sorry on Alex Jones. He made it real fucking easy for him because he broke like 10 million laws. And on top of that, we've talked about this a million times on the show. Do you know how hard it is in this country to win a defamation lawsuit? Gavin and I have had debates about whether or not it should be reformed, but we both agreed that it is hard as fuck. And I think we both agreed that it kind of has to be hard as fuck if you're going to maintain a principle of free speech. How hard is up for debate, but yeah, this took 10 years. Do you know how expensive it is to pay lawyers for 10 fucking years? All the lawyers that are here, all this kind of stuff. So let's just not go wiping our fucking tears for Alex Jones, a literal vile criminal, and pretend that he's some like beacon or arbiter for like independent speech and free thought. Like, no, he committed a bunch of fucking crimes that were odious and vile, and he's being held to account. And if you want me to lead a bandwagon on the fact that the New York Times needs to fucking pay out some reparations for the damage that they've done and all the war propaganda, and I sign me the fuck up. Okay. But that doesn't mean that we start simping for Alex Jones. So that's the first thing. And you can tell that somebody's so warped when that's where their mind goes. Like all of these people that are like so-called free speech people, like it's really just a fucking pump fake. Because as Gavin and I were talking about today, all of these same people were talking about how shame on corporate media for Kyle Rittenhouse, and he's going to secure the bag for, they called him a murderer and he wasn't, and all this kind of shit, right? They were just ready for those corporations to get sued. You know, but I don't see that same like, but now it's like, it's fucking crazy to be sued for. Anybody should be able to say anything about anyone. Okay. You're fucking giving away the game.
Exactly. And just to address you, Christina, because I think this is a valid comment. You say Alex Jones is crazy, but I do value freedom of speech. I choose not to listen to him. And I also value freedom of speech. And I was against Alex Jones being censored by the big tech companies when that went down, when all of the social media companies kicked him off at the same time. I was against that. I think so were you, Zach. But that's different than defamation. Defamation is not censorship, Christina. Because, yeah, you can choose not to listen to him, but the victims that he smeared and lied about, they don't have that choice because they have to hear from his fans and they have to receive the harassment from his fans and the people that did unfortunately listen to him, regardless of whether or not they want to. So it'd be like, Christina, if I started saying, you know, talking about you and saying like, well, you're operating a sex dungeon in your basement and you're holding people captive and you're trafficking children. And then all of a sudden people start showing up to your house and knocking down your door and calling you and harassing you and saying, well, you're attacking people and you're victimizing children. That's defamation, and you could sue me for that because I endangered you. I, put you through a ton of harassment. I brought a lot of negative attention on you based on lies and profited off of it. That's very different than just him stating his opinion about, oh, I think that Sandy Hook was fake. Well, that's a little bit different than directly implicating actual human beings with actual lives, whose professional lives and family lives and ability to live in peace were all put in massive jeopardy by the lies that Alex Jones spread. So while I definitely understand where you're coming from, and I also value freedom of speech to a almost maximalist extent, defamation is not the same thing as censorship. And there's actually a legal categorization of defamation that is not protected by free speech. You're not allowed to just spread lies about someone that completely damages their reputation and profit off of it.
Yeah, and just to also jump in, Christina, that's what you're saying right now is exactly what I illustrated, right? Like, of course, but just because the mainstream media commits a crime doesn't mean you don't prosecute somebody else who commits that crime, right? Like, I could say, like, oh, I just robbed a bank, right? You can't punish me because all of the Wall Street goons rob us all of the time. That's not going to be a defense in a court of law. Like if Gavin and I go and we stick up the Community America down the block and we steal all the fucking money in there, and we only got 100 grand. Let's talk about the billions of dollars that were stolen by the oligarchs in the single greatest upward trend. Like they're still going to put our ass in jail for a decade at least, right? So just because you could point to somebody else who's committed a crime the same crime even, or a worse crime, like that's not a defense. You're still fessing to the fact that you did a crime. So I 100%, as I've said, and I know Gavin would agree with me, if you can prove that the Washington Post or the New York Times or any mainstream media outlet did defamation, 100%, I support them going to the fucking mats and paying it out. You know, Jesse Ventura got a fucking MSNBC casa in Mexico because they fucked with his contract and sued him. You know, that wasn't exactly the same thing. But of course, if you go after the mainstream media outlets and win, Gavin and I have nothing but support and adulation for you. What I just think is odd is that people want to make excuses for Alex Jones by being like, oh, well, he committed this crime that everybody commits. And it's like, yeah, well, why don't we just start prosecuting that crime like we did to Alex Jones to the mainstream media too? And then we'll all be better off. Then you can't do defamation. That just seems like the solution to me.
Right. And Christina goes on to say, what about MSM? Shouldn't they all be held accountable? Yes, absolutely. And oftentimes they are, Christina. Here's an example of this happening recently. The Washington Post had to pay $250 million to that kid, Nick Sandman, for mischaracterizing this incident with him and the Native American activist during a pro-life rally. Unfortunately, they had to pay him literally hundreds of millions of dollars because they incorrectly stated the nature of that event. So this happens all the time. This isn't like some brand new precedent. It's not like defamation was invented just to go after Alex Jones with. No, he committed a crime and now he's having to pay for it. And that's the reality of the situation. This isn't really anything new. But yeah, let's get into Mike Figueiredo's response to Kim Iversen, because as you guys remember, Kim Iversen actually threatened to sue Mike Figueiredo back in July over him calling her transphobic, which is not defamation. That's a matter of opinion. You're allowed to state your opinion about other people, especially if you're a freaking online commentator, an opinion commentator, which is what Mike Figueiredo is. So at the time, Mike said, I believe Tulsi is transphobic. She doesn't like trans people. And as I mentioned earlier, Kim Iversen threatened to sue him for defamation over that. So here's Mike Figueiredo from the Humanist Report responding to this very insanely hypocritical tweet, which we just responded to. He says, I disagree with Kim about this particular case, but she makes a fantastic point about the chilling effect defamation lawsuits can have on free speech. I'm really glad she understands this, and I appreciate her consistency on this issue. So obviously Mike is being sarcastic here because she has no consistency on this issue whatsoever, and she's a total fucking hypocrite that changes her principles based on her emotions. Essentially, the whole facts over feeling things, it's the opposite for her. It's feelings over facts. She goes on to pathetically try to defend herself and say, you clearly don't seem to understand the difference between claiming an event was fake versus making fake or false slanderous claims about an individual with the intent to harm their business. I have 1 year, by the way. So still holding out that threat that, I might sue you, bro. I still might sue you. What a bully. What a piece of shit. Anyway, to break down this stupidity, because I really can't tell if Kim Iversen is actually just this dumb or if she's being like willfully ignorant and just, trying to make herself look better or something. I don't really know if she's really this dumb or if she's just faking it in order to try to sound smart. But what's wrong with this statement is that, as I mentioned earlier, lots of people said Sandy Hook was fake. Lots of people say all kind of conspiratorial things online and they don't get sued for defamation. Alex Jones was not the only commentator out here saying that Sandy Hook was staged. He wasn't, I promise. And trust me, all the other ones they didn't get sued, or at least a lot of them, because they didn't directly implicate the family members into the conspiracy theory. They didn't call them crisis actors. They didn't specifically single out people, which led to the harassment from the fans. So the defamation lawsuit was not because Alex Jones said the event was fake. That's not why he got sued for defamation. It's because he directly implicated individual people and family members into that conspiracy, which did lead to a negative effect on their lives. Absolutely, it did. So she's completely mischaracterizing the lawsuit here, and trying to conflate, and also just hilariously trying to say that Mike calling her transphobic is somehow more damaging to her life than Alex Jones, who has a million times bigger platform, saying that the Sandy Hook victims' family members were crisis actors, which again led to 100 times as much negative attention on them as Mike's one-off video where he called her transphobic ever had on her.
Yeah, this is the bird brain energy over here is just unreal. One, Alex Jones literally did do those things, Kim, making false slanderous claims about an individual. Yeah, how about the fact that they were fucking crisis actors that had their own kid's death staged? What about that is not a false and slanderous claim about an individual with the intent to harm their business, with the intent to ruin their fucking lives, Kim? A man died. He fucking killed himself. And let me just, I mean, it's the amount of deluge of fucking hate you can get from an audience of 1 million plus. It's unthinkable. It'll do really bad things to you. And on top of that, it's all predicated on the completely false allegations, provably false allegations, which are, yes, about an individual, slanderous claims, while you're in the time of the most intense mourning any of us could possibly imagine. I don't have kids, but I've got a fucking dog that I would be like extremely devastated if he was killed. I can only imagine a parent is infinitely more traumatized than that, right? And yet you're going to pretend that this isn't false, slanderous claims about an individual with the intent to, like, you are so dumb. You are dumb as rocks, or you are so narcissistic that you can only see your fucking, tunnel brain. This is how I feed red meat to my audience. I have to fucking simp for Alex Jones and then also hate the trans. Yeah, that's the only fucking evidence I need that you don't like trans people, okay? Fucking ridiculous. I can't get over this lady. She fucking fries my cheese, as they say in the Midwest.
And even if there was a way to prove that Kim Iversen is not transphobic, which, who cares? Whatever you think is fine. You can say that she's an ally to the trans community. You can say she's a transphobe. It's a matter of your opinion. You can't really prove something like that. Again, it's a matter of opinion. I could say Zach's a real piece of shit. I fucking hate his guts. That's not defamation. Again, because you can't really prove that. It's a matter of opinion. I can say Zach's a real racist, Is that true? No, I happen to know that's not true. My co-host is not a racist, luckily. But Zach couldn't sue me for saying that.
I'm an anti-white racist.
Yeah, Zach's an anti-white racist. But again, even though there's no proof Zach is a racist, I still have every right to come out here and make a video calling him one. Again, I'm not going to do that because I don't believe that, but just in this hypothetical scenario, I am perfectly within my legal rights to do that, or call him transphobic, or call him sexist, or call him ableist, or whatever I want. I can do that. I can say that about Kim Iversen. I can say that about Mike Figueredo. That's all within my legal right, because that's an opinion. That is straight up an opinion, and you can't really prove an opinion wrong. Saying that someone's a crisis actor or falsely accusing them of a crime that they didn't commit, that is defamation, and that's what Alex Jones is guilty of. So again, it's just not the same thing at all, and it really tells you a lot about how narcissistic Kim Iversen is that she thinks that Mike's YouTube video in which she was labeled a transphobe was more damaging to her life and her reputation than Alex Jones spreading misinformation and profiting off of it to millions of people about family members of kids that just got fucking slaughtered in a mass shooting. What a piece of shit. How can you fucking be so disgusting? I really have no words for her. Again, and I can't tell if she's really this ignorant about the law and what defamation is, or if she just doesn't care about that and has no principles. I really don't know. Anyway, Mike goes on here to say, actually, my intent was to change your mind, not harm your business. By your standards, saying my intent was to harm is defamatory because it portrays me as a mean-spirited antagonist. Don't worry, though. I won't actually sue you. I actually support free speech. And that's a great point. By her own standards, he could sue her because she's lying about his intent, according to him. And she's saying that he's a mean spirited antagonist that's trying to hurt her business when he's just saying, no, I'm just trying to, I'm just trying to freaking say my opinion. That's my job. I'm an opinion commentator. And I can back that up as someone who's also an opinion commentator and say that when we criticize people all the time on every single show, every single episode of the show. We criticize people viciously. And trust me, I mean this from the bottom of the heart. Never is it an attempt to harm their business. When we're talking about Kim Iversen right now, I'm not trying to harm her business. I'm really not. I'm just giving my opinion on her. Same with every other person we talk about. I don't care about how much money they make. I don't care about how many clicks they get. I don't care about how many views they get. I'm not narcissistic enough to think that my opinion is going to have an effect on their bottom line. And I think that's Mike's opinion too. He's responding to her. He responded to her statement publicly because she's an opinion commentator and so is he. And it's his job to share his opinion about her opinions. And his opinion was that her opinion was transphobic. That's what it comes down to. And that's not fucking defamation or libel or slander. It's a matter of opinion. Just like it would be a matter of opinion to call someone crazy or to call someone stupid or to call someone an asshole or to call someone a piece of shit. You know what I'm saying? Like he really just called her a transphobe. That's where it stops. That's where it ends. And that's not defamation. She then responded and said, interesting that you believe the way to change a person's mind is by telling viewers on a shared platform that said person is in fact a insert disparaging, defaming comment here. Does that work? And what exactly were you trying to change my mind about? Again, a disparaging comment is not the same thing as defamation. You stupid person. You're so stupid. How do you not realize that? People call me all kinds of things every day. I look at the comment section of our videos. People call me a piece of shit. I've had people call me, one time someone called me a sexist for disagreeing with Kim Iversen. Do I get to sue that person now because they falsely accused me of being a sexist? Like, is that really the world you want to live in, Kim Iversen, where every commentator is suing each other over petty insults? This is madness. And the fact that she claims to be a free speech absolutist and will defend every right winger, every disgusting bigot that gets censored on Twitter or any other platform. But this is crossing a line. I think it tells you everything you need to know about this woman's principles.
Of course it does. Look, it's the same game. It's not about principles. It's about being incendiary. It's about being fringe. It's about standing up for the guy that's like, because look, I don't know. There's a weird alliance going on between the like certain subsect of the left and the like most deranged fucking right wingers out there. That's why you're getting shit like MAGA communism. That's why you're getting like Putin is based content. It's very strange. And now you're having these same exact people come around and start telling you that Alex Jones is a victim. Like, are you fucking kidding me? Give me a fucking break, guy. Give me a fucking break. I'm not shedding any tears for Alex Jones. And the fact that they want to portray this guy who's worth hundreds of millions of dollars as if he's just some independent, small-time streamer breaking the truth. It's like, no, he's not. He's a vile, fucking pathetic old man. And he's reaping what he fucking sowed.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, by the way, Gabe, for the $4.99. Since Kim was one of Tulsi's biggest simps, how long do you think it will be when Kim does her own I left the left declaration? Probably not long. You know, I don't. She basically already has. You know, I don't really think she identifies with the left in any meaningful way anymore. But you know, that's not to say I disagree with her on everything. Every once in a while, I will see a based Kim Iversen take, and we try to give her credit where it's due. But when you see just glaring, unforgivable and unexplainable examples of hypocrisy like this, it really does lead me to just not take anything she says seriously. Because it's like, if you can't even understand what the basic concept of having a principle is on an issue like free speech, then like, why the fuck would I listen to anything you have to say? Why the fuck would I listen to anything you claim to care about if your principle disappears this quickly as soon as you're personally offended, as soon as you get triggered by something because you're such a thin-skinned fucking snowflake?
Yep. Retweet. Shout out to you, Gabe. Really appreciate the $4.99 super chat. Shout out to you, Kima, JM Medina. What's up? $5. Appreciate that. Watch the channel Socialism for All vids on Kim. He did a great job illustrating who she really is. Very revealing of her grift. Yeah, I've never heard of that, but I would maybe check it out. I've watched in real time Kim Iversen, kind of hone in on a very and to her credit, I don't know what the fuck she actually believes. Maybe she believes all this bullshit, but she's uniquely found that echo chamber for herself, where she like pretends that she's like you know, really like on the fringe and like, you know, the Great Reset and like, I don't know, all these like, oh, the fucking vaccines and, you know, and this one miscellaneous study showed that you had an X percentage increase in this one thing that you never fucking heard of until you were looking for every single fucking problem with the vaccine ever. Yeah, okay, I'm not that interested in that. And how shocking that this was not reported by mainstream media. It's like, we all know what you're doing. You're just still picking up the crumbs of the fucking anti-vax hysteria, which is just low-hanging fruit. But yeah, all of that just ties in together for me perfectly, and it's just self-serving nonsense for an audience.
Yeah, I'll have to check out that video. Really appreciate the super chat. Thanks for letting me know about that one. I'll definitely give it a watch. Really appreciate the super chat, Kima. And thank you also, Christian999, for becoming a YouTube member. Shout out to you, latest member of the Vanguard Army. Thank you so much, Christian. Really appreciate that. And if you guys become YouTube members, you do get access to all of our Pepes, which you can spam the chat with. So, you know, good stuff there. Good way to support the show as well. And yeah, follow up super chat. Yo, mom, I'm officially a Vanguard comrade. LOL. Yeah, join the team. Thank you so much, Kristen. Really appreciate having you on board.
Yeah, shout out to you, Christian. Van Click Deep. Let's go.
Hell yeah, bro. Everyone become a member. Spam that chat with Pepes. I want to see more Pepes in the chat. But yeah, I think we have a couple more super chats before we move on to our next story. Thank you, the Blues guy. Really appreciate that for the $10. I can't believe the thin skin of some politicians and online commentators. I'm a professional musician. Every night I deal with criticism. Stay off the stage if you can't take the heat. Yeah, get out the kitchen. If you can't take the heat, get out of the fucking kitchen. And it's funny too, because you know Kim Iversen never self-censors. She'll call people. I mean, she'll say negative things about public people and other commentators and you know elected officials and stuff. It's crazy that all it took was someone calling her a bigot after she said things that were pretty bigoted to cry defamation and start threatening lawsuits. It's fucking unbelievable.
Oh yeah, dude, Jesus Christ. I mean, the thin skin on these people, and yeah, like the Blues guy. If you're a working class musician, or how about a bartender? I had a lady take a drink of one of my drinks I made her. This is an original recipe from a fucking damn good cocktail. She sips it and tells me that it smelled like wet dog. That's fucking defamation. That's defamation. I was like, here, why don't you wear this wet dog? But I didn't say that. I said, oh, I'm sorry, ma'am. Let me get you something else to drink. But in my mind, for the rest of the night, I was thinking about her getting run over by a fucking train. No. Anyway, I 100% relate to you, Blues.
You just couldn't handle the truth about your drink, Zach. She was the only one that was unafraid to tell you how it really is.
Bro, I guarantee you, she wasn't familiar with egg white, but it was just, you know.
LOL. Well, thank you so much to Blues guy. Yeah, normal people, everyone has to deal with all kinds of criticism. And as I said, as someone who is lucky enough to make my fucking living talking shit on the internet about other people, I cannot imagine turning around, finding some rando on YouTube who said something mean about me and threatening to sue them in an attempt to shut them up. Like there's probably 10 or 15 channels out there that make negative videos about the Vanguard and call us shit libs and, you know, call us sheep herders or whatever the fuck they say. Do you think I'm going to isolate one of their videos? Can you imagine getting on Twitter, finding some rando on YouTube that said something mean about me, you know, blowing it up and saying, this is defamation. You better watch out. I'm going to fucking sue you. No, because I'm not a fucking snowflake and I can handle criticism. And I'm not a fucking pathetic person and I actually value free speech too. People should have the ability to say whatever they want about me. Make a YouTube video right now. Say the most disgusting thing about me. I don't give a fuck. I will 100% defend your right to say that about me. I promise. But thank you so much to Blues guy. Really appreciate the $10. Super generous contribution. And thank you also, Blaine, for the $5. People are backwards, unprincipled, and dumb. Glad to catch you live for the first time or second time in a month. Hope you guys are well. Link up soon. Yeah, what's up, Blaine? Appreciate your super chat. Glad you're tuning in. Hope you're enjoying the show today. And absolutely, let's link up, man. Let's play some frisbee golf.
Hell yeah, bro. Good to see you in the chat. And yeah, people are fucking massively unprincipled, especially when there's a lot of clout and money on the line. Unfortunately, that's why Gavin and I have taken an oath of poverty for the rest of our lives. We'd like to run our mouths too much. It's too costly.
And yeah, guys, if you ever come into the bar Zach works at, make sure to order the wet dog cocktail. It's his specialty.
Bro, it's fucked up. That's the cocktail that's going in the pitch too. I was like, this is bullshit. I just had to fucking sit down with a fucking journalist about this cocktail, and then this lady's giving me shit about it. But anyway, I don't have to give it my other fucking, professional drama.
The wet dog. That is such like a specifically mean thing to say too. Like you could have just said like it smelled like shit, but no, just like it smelled like a wet. Like what a terrible thing to compare the smell of a drink to.
Bro, I was livid. I had to let somebody else handle that. I was like, I cannot fucking deal with this right now. I cannot believe that woman just said that.
Yeah, fuck that lady. Jesus Christ. Anyway, I think we're about done talking about the Kim Iversen drama. Again, just absolutely clowning herself on Twitter. Actually, real quick, before we move on, I did want to show you guys a few other replies because there were some other good replies here. She basically got massively mocked, including by us. As I said, this tweet actually did pretty well. It got over 600 likes. We're a pretty small Twitter account, so to get 641 likes on a reply, pretty impressive stuff. Pretty impressive stuff. Also, Vaush chimed in here. Okay, well, she's disputing what Vaush says. He says, "Didn't you vote for Trump, the guy who wanted to expand libel and slander laws?" And she says, "No, I didn't vote for Trump, but keep spreading baseless lies. You wonder why you lack credibility." Interesting. I guess she didn't vote for Trump. I don't know where Vaush got that information. But yeah, a lot of people basically were pushing back on her and saying it wasn't the event that was fake. He disparaged the family's involvement. The First Amendment means the government can't silence you. It doesn't mean there are no consequences for libel and slander, just as the Second Amendment doesn't mean you can shoot people. So a lot of people pushing back on this dog shit.
That was actually a good point.
It was, yeah. Here's Progressive Michigander, who I think might be in the chat right now somewhere. He said defamation exists and has always existed. If you intentionally or recklessly make false statements impugning someone's character, especially when they aren't a public figure, and they sue for it and prove those statements were false, you are liable for resulting damages, especially when you profit off of it to the tune of millions of dollars. So 100% on point, Progressive Michigander. Yeah, she got a lot of pushback. Most people called out this bullshit, luckily. Including even some of her fans, which, yeah, so pretty funny stuff.
Oh yeah, dude, it's fucking hilarious. And it's just, it gives away the game, right? You can't be I'm the free speech warrior and I don't believe in any consequences for anything you say, and then turn around and be the same person that's like, people are mean to me, they have to be sued for defamation. So anyway, I disagree with her assessment of the Alex Jones case, but if she was going to take that position and at least be principled, I could at least say, well, we have a difference of opinion here. I think that the law is very clearly written this way. You think it's written another way. We would debate that. But this is just selective, self-serving bullshit, which is why you can't really reason with it.
Absolutely. So yeah, that's probably it for the Kim Iversen segment. We're going to move on and talk a bit about Vaush. Before we do so, shout out to you, Das Bush Flies. I guess that's a question for you, Zach.
Oh, Jesus Christ. Do I mix a good zombie? We don't do a ton of tikis at my bar, but Das Bush Flies likes to get fucked up if you drink zombies. That's like 4 different kinds of rum in it, and then like pineapple juice and guava juice. Gavin, you would probably like it. It's white rum, dark rum, spiced rum, and you mix it with like guava juice, pineapple juice, lime, and shit like that. And then you take 151 and you do a splash of it on the top, and you can light it on fire. But anyway, it's a fun drink.
Yeah, I used to work at a taco restaurant that made zombies, and they were really good. I enjoyed them quite a bit. You're right; they do have like 4 different kinds of rum in them.
Was that the one that we drank that one time together?
That was the Scorpion Bowl.
We got drunk as shit at this one Mexican place Gavin worked at one night, like years ago, because we got this fucking huge ass bowl of shit that they lit on fire. I was like, I don't even remember what it was.
Yeah, that was crazy, dude. That was and it was like in the afternoon too. I don't know what we were thinking. It was like
just
3
4
p.m.
o'clock after school. One day we were done at UMK.
Fun times. Anyway, thank you so much for the super chat. Thank you also, Mike. She said she was voting GOP down ticket. Yeah, so she's already left the left. Let's be honest. Don't you love it when someone on the left, they find like one issue where like, oh, these Republicans are so based and they're sticking up for the truth, and then they use that as an entire justification to become a Republican while still claiming to be on the left. Yeah, we see what you're fucking doing. Anyway, thank you, Mike.
Yeah, which it makes sense. Like she tries, like Vaush, I mean, you say I'm voting down ticket, like Republican, which I do think she has tweeted in the past. I do remember that. It kind of would lend somebody to believe, like, didn't you vote for Trump? But anyway.
Right. Yeah, exactly. And thank you once again, Mike. Also, thank you, Alex, for the $5. Do you remember when she said she was voting red just because of COVID? Yeah, this is exactly what I'm saying. You find one issue where the Republicans align slightly more with your position, and then you use that one like issue to basically just be like, oh, actually, now I'm a Republican straight up. I just also pretend to be on the left for some reason. And of course Tulsi Gabbard has done that as well, who Kim Iversen used to be a surrogate for. And I think we mentioned this earlier, but Tulsi Gabbard is literally going to New Hampshire to stump for a Trump endorsed Republican. So to all those people in our chat saying she's not joining the Republican Party just because she left the Democratic Party doesn't mean she's a Republican, guys. Well, I'm not hearing so much of that anymore now that she's literally out here supporting Trump candidates. And also, this just 100% affirms my prediction that she's trying to become the VP of Donald Trump.
Not only that, this guy was there people are trying to pretend she's the anti-war person. This guy's a retired, I think he was a major, if not a general, in the army. Okay, and on top of that, he has been vehemently supportive of the United States involvement in Ukraine. He wants U.S. ground troops in Ukraine. He wants to crush the Kremlin. These are the kind of quotes that this guy's delivering. But anti-war Tulsi Gabbard, go fuck yourselves. You're all fucking idiots. You're all marks. I can't believe this.
Yeah, no principles, just shameless grifters. Christina Souza, thank you so much, Christina, for the $9.99. Kim will be hosting a show on Fox News in no time. Yeah, probably. I mean, it's probably the end goal, right? I'm surprised she hasn't been on Tucker's show yet. Maybe the next time Tulsi fills in for Tucker, she'll invite her on.
Yeah, I mean, I think that is the end goal. So.
Absolutely. And thank you, Gabe, for the $1.99. I admittedly totally forgot about that. What were we talking about that you forgot about, Gabe? I'm a little bit I don't remember what we were talking about when you sent that super chat in. Do you know what he's talking about, Zach?
I think maybe the down ballots of the Tulsi voting, saying that she was going to, not Tulsi, excuse me, Kim Iversen saying that she was going to go Republican down ballot.
Yeah, she did say that. I think she also said she's going to vote for Ron DeSantis. So yeah. Thank you, Mike, for the $5. I talked some friends out of voting for DeSantis in 2024 because he's against pot legalization. Finding common ground is key to deconverting the right wing. Yeah, 100%. And I think that most normal people that are on the right can definitely be reasoned with. I think that most people that are Trump voters, even, or people that are basically just normal people, that aren't in this space and that aren't like commentators and stuff. You can definitely find common ground with those people. They're not all like irredeemable fucking racists and bigots and stuff. Like most of them, they've probably been led to believe certain things by certain media figures or whatever propaganda they're watching. But in reality, most of them are pretty reasonable. And you can find a lot of common ground with those folks, as you seemingly did, Mike, and explain to them why a lot of these, faux populist Republicans like Ron DeSantis are actually just fascists. So yeah, thank you for the super chat, Mike. Really appreciate that. And that's awesome that you were able to find some common ground and convert someone who was apparently going to vote for Ron DeSantis. Zach's taking a pee right now, so he'll be right back. But seeing if we have any more good comments. Progressive Michigander says Kim's pivot is post-2020 election. It really got going with the vaccine mandates, which I agreed with her on, but definitely isn't a reason to vote. Yeah, that's fair to say, Progressive Michigander. And yeah, that definitely was an issue she cared a lot about. But I do think it's pretty funny that, that continues to be such a big deal, because it's not like there are any fucking vaccine mandates right now. Like I'm vaccinated and I haven't had to show my vaccine card to anyone in the last 6 months. I've only had to do it 2 or 3 times in my entire life. But to act like vaccine mandates is still a pressing issue, right? It's not. No, there are no mandates. There are no lockdowns. There are no mandates. So yeah, but that is true, Progressive Michigander.
Oh yeah, I mean, I think that was the open door for a lot of these people to walk through the whole pivot, because they saw the energy leaving the left on the internet and going straight to the right, and a truckload of people got in on that because it was like, oh, do you want to do you want to have to battle with the fucking pangs of, oh, the progressive movement is dipping, and so people are going to be like, see, nobody cares about your show anymore, you're a fucking loser, or do you want to go where all the other people are going and you can get lots of views and clicks and be like, you're the only truth teller, you're the freedom fighter, like the world needs you? And a lot of people made their choices accordingly. But shout out to you, Progressive Michigander. Pot legalization is a greater uniter between right and left. Alex Khan. I don't know if you reacted to that while I was gone, but shout out to you, Alex. Really appreciate the $5. And pot legalization is a great unifier for us all.
Yep, it's one of the reasons why libertarians, you can oftentimes find a lot of common ground with them, because they also oftentimes genuinely do believe in freedom and lack of government intervention when it comes to stuff like bodily autonomy. And that's an issue where I'm 100% okay with uniting with libertarians on. Like, I'm also a proponent of complete bodily autonomy, whether it's abortion or drugs or assisted suicide. That's something that libertarians are 100% right about. The government should not interfere in your ability to seek any sort of medical care that you want. If you want to, get a gender affirming surgery, if you want to smoke meth, like, these are all things that, in my opinion, you should have the legal right to do. It's your body. You should have the right to make that choice. The government should not be intervening and telling you what drugs you can't take or what medical procedures you can't get. And again, that is often an issue where you can find a lot of common ground between people on the left, like me and Zach, and maybe people that are culturally on the right on other issues, but maybe they have libertarian beliefs when it comes to issues of personal freedom.
Oh yeah, 100%. And I mean, one of the issues where I've recently found a lot of common ground with my father, who definitely bends libertarian, not just pot legalization, but the police in general. Like, I don't know if you saw the horrifying video of the guy that's eating his like fucking McDonald's or whatever, and the police just start shooting him. Like, I sent that to my dad because my dad, like, he got weirdly in his 50s woken up to like police violence. I'm like, Dad, you've been fucked with by the police. He's like, I know, I fucking hate those guys, but I thought it was just me being a fucking idiot my whole life. And I'm like, no, dude. He's like, they just think they can fuck with people just because they're broke. And I'm like, yeah, and black and brown. Let's start fucking expanding our understanding of this. Like, so that's another middle.
Absolutely. Yeah, and that's another issue where oftentimes libertarians are pretty good too when it comes to like the police issues. Unfortunately, some libertarians want to privatize the police, which is actually worse than how we currently do it, but you'll still find some common ground on like on stuff like that with some libertarians.
Yeah.
So thank you, Alex.
Or if Robbie Swove, he just wants to see him thrown in fucking jail. That's the other side of the libertarian argument.
That's why I was like some libertarian. I was literally thinking of that motherfucker. But thank you also, Renzo, for the 199. If you lived in a swing state, would you vote for Biden? Personally, no. I would not vote for Biden under any circumstance. That's a personal decision. It's like I just kind of consider it a boycott. Like I'm not going to co-sign that. I'm just not. He's a fucking architect of mass incarceration, author of the crime bill. I'm not voting for him under any circumstance, even if fucking Mussolini is running against him. So that's just me. I'll hold out and vote third party. But at the same time, I'm not going to voter shame anyone. I'm against voter shaming. And if you feel like that's the better choice for you to make, then I totally understand where you're coming from.
Yeah, look, guys, I just don't think I would. I've eaten a lot of shit, and I've defended myself for my decision to vote for Biden in 2020. But he got one from me, right? And in fact, they really got two from me because I was really, really like malleable in my political views. When I was 18 still, I was a big Bernie guy, did not fucking like Hillary, but every single person I knew was like, you're a fucking racist piece of shit if you don't fucking get out there and vote for her today. I was like, all right, guys, I guess I'll show up and vote for her. Kind of like, you know what I mean? The Joe Biden one, I was like, no, that was me and all of my fucking political rationale, like swallowing my fucking pride and voting for her. Not doing that again. So yeah, I mean, no, I don't think we really do live in a swing state. I think Missouri goes red no matter what the fuck happens in 2024. But let's say I lived in Pennsylvania. It's not on my conscience if Joe Biden loses.
Yeah, exactly. So it's
I don't know.
Oh, I would definitely vote for John Fetterman. Absolutely. But yeah, Joe Biden is just a bridge too far. He's in like I can't do it. But again, I don't blame anyone that made that decision. I really don't. I think there's a lot of good reasons. Like we were talking to Crystal Ball, for example, and she was talking about how the NLRB was a lot better under Biden than under Trump. And you can't really deny that, right? Like there are some issues where you can't really deny that the Democrats are better than the Republicans. But then also people would make the argument that, well, there's some issues here where they're not. It's like, okay, whatever. That's why I just choose to boycott the entire duopoly and vote for third-party candidates, at least on the presidential level. But thank you so much, Renzo. Really appreciate the question. Thank you also, Nikki, for the $4.99. Mike is exactly correct. Find that common ground. I've had success with this method as well. Yeah, 100%. And even though we like to get really vitriolic on this podcast and, call people names and get really emotional about stuff, when it comes to normal people, just like normal person, like, your grandpa or some Trump supporter that lives down the street, like, never talk to them like we talk to, like we, talk on this podcast. Like those people are normal people. They're working people. They might have some problematic viewpoints, but they can have their minds changed. They're usually pretty reasonable. You can usually find a lot of common ground with them. And usually they're not, they're more reasonable than you might expect. So I totally agree with that, Nikki.
Oh, 100%. Look, I save all my vitriol for people who are fucking making money to fucking spread propaganda and lies to indoctrinate working class people with problematic views. And if you're making money and this is your job, then yeah, you can eat shit. Like, I'll fucking say whatever I want about you. I'm not like, Gavin and I were kind of talking about this earlier. We are like the bottom of the barrel YouTubers for people who get to like say we do this professionally. We're about like, not talent wise, but just like in subs. Like, we have no subs compared to somebody with like 1 million, right? Those people are the ones that typically like come out here and bitch about how like people are mean to them. Like, no, if you are a YouTuber and you are making your living telling people your views, that's who I'm coming after. If I see somebody that comes into my bar and we're talking and our politics are different, mostly I'm just trying to flesh them out. I'm trying to understand how they think about things, and then I might slip some like vague comrade shit in there, like, yeah, but isn't your landlord like really fucking you? Like, don't you remember when rent was like really cheap in Kansas City? Doesn't that suck? Like, those kinds of things. That's how I try and open the door up. But I never come at somebody when they're like, oh, I voted for Trump. Get the fuck out of here, you fascist. Like, no, nobody ever, like, that's not how you deal with real people. Like, so I hope that was clear that our show is a little bit different than like RIL.
Absolutely. Yeah. Like I have this one guy, I have a friend who actually owns a restaurant and bar up the street, and he's like a full-fledged libertarian. Like his restaurant actually got shut down in the early stages of the pandemic because he refused to implement a mask mandate. He's a big right-wing libertarian kind of guy. And I have no problem chatting with that dude. Like, every time I'm in the bar, I talk with him. We have a great time chatting, a lively conversation for sure. But it's all like with the understanding that it's like, just a conversation. It's nothing deeper than that. Yes, we have political disagreements, but we're both just normal working class people. And I have no problem exchanging my ideas with that kind of person. Like, I really have no problem trying to find some common ground, and there is common ground to find. So there's nothing wrong with that. But anyway, thank you so much, Nikki. Really appreciate that. And thank you also, Christina, for the $4.99. The new nightly Fox News lineup of former lefties, Jimmy Dore, Kim Iversen, Tulsi Gabbard, and Haxon Jinkle. I mean, yep. They are birds of a feather.
Bro, we have literally been explaining this to you guys for over a year now. I distinctly remember being like, those people are lefties that are, just stink your finger in the wind commentator. And what if we also paired that with every single time? What is the right wing's favorite shit in the world? Right? Just like how the Democrats love to parade out the people who, like, Trump was a bridge too far for him, the Joe Scarboroughs, the George W. Bushes, all those people. The right wing loves to point out and parade out the left just got too woke from me, people. And that's why they have people like Tulsi Gabbard and Jimmy Dore, to go out there and just say that the left got too woke.
Yep, absolutely. That's what Fox News loves, to bring in that token ex-lefty to be like, oh, the left got too crazy. So a lot of those people play that role pretty well. Thank you so much, Christina. We always appreciate your super chats. Thank you also, Audie the Bugcatcher, for the $10 on the right-wing bias in the YouTube algorithm. What do you guys think about directly refuting points made by people on the right, like Candace Owens, more often on your show, and using it to make the algorithm work for you? We have done this sometimes. Like, we responded to a Candace Owens segment the other day when she was talking about Kanye West. We talked about Ben Shapiro the other day. We do respond to right-wing commentators. Personally, and maybe this is, you guys can have whatever opinion you want about it, but personally, I just don't find it as intellectually engaging to do that, because I just think these people are so stupid. I think their arguments are so bad that even entertaining them at all just seems like a waste of time. And it's not a waste of time. There are a lot of good channels that do really good work out there, responding point by point and breaking down how stupid people like Candace Owens are, and how ridiculous their ideology is. And that's great work that needs to be done. But personally, I just find it boring, because it's so obvious to me. It's so obvious to me that these people are idiots. It just feels like low-hanging fruit. I'd rather engage with the ideas and opinions of someone who at least is like 50% in agreement with me. Like, take someone like Kim Iversen. There's a lot of issues where I do agree with Kim Iversen on. And at least I can understand where she's coming from, and I don't think she's just a total propagandist. So I think it's a little bit more engaging to like refute some of her talking points and some of her ideology, because again, at least she's like nominally on the left, I guess. But that's not to say that the people that do spend time refuting the arguments of the likes of Ben Shapiro and Candace Owens aren't doing good work. It's a great service too.
Yeah, the way I've always kind of looked at it is one, I don't have a lot of interest in it. If I was going to do that, I'd have to spend a lot more time watching right-wing content and media, which I'm just not that interested in. One of the reasons Gavin and I like doing this is because we watch this shit anyway. We know about it anyway. I never in my life have regularly watched right-wing content. I wouldn't have the media died to find it faster than other people. That's the other thing that makes our show work is Gavin and I find this shit and react to it first most of the time. And, obviously, we, have taken our model and warped it together from a couple of things other people are doing. But really what I just saw and what Gavin and I saw is a lane of opportunity where people could do that kind of thing you're talking about, Adi, but apply it to independent media stuff we're already watching. And I just think that we're much better suited for that. I have like a fucking file cabinet of shit that I know about bread tubers and YouTubers and the people that we follow. To be honest, I don't know that much about like what fucking Steven Crowder is up to or Ben Shapiro is up to. I know that it fucking irritates the crap out of me when I have to listen to the clips on our show when it's like such big news we can't ignore it. And that's about the only time I ever want to fucking react to it. Like I'll roast Ben Shapiro for 5 minutes when he buys a piece of wood from Home Depot to be like, see, I'm supporting a real American company. Or, when he's like making thirsty posts about his own sister, like, okay, I'll dunk on him for that. But I don't really want to watch his show and like sift through it for, the kind of like nuggets that I could be like, Ben Shapiro, clown self. Like, other people are doing that and that's great. But I just never really saw it as like our lane or something that we were even the best fit for.
Right. And also, I just think that most people in our audience already know that people like Candace Owens are stupid and people like Ben Shapiro are stupid. Like, I think most of you guys watching already know that. I think that like 95% of our audience is already on the left. So again, I just feel like it's kind of low hanging fruit to go after people like that. And whether or not it would help us in the algorithm, I don't know, because we have done videos like that in the past. Like, Ben Shapiro's a freaking idiot. And like, doesn't really do much better than anything else that we put out. So again, it's just not really our specialty, I guess, but really appreciate the super chat and the suggestion regardless, Adi. Thank you so much as always. Thank you also in Tompkin for the $5. Really appreciate you, man. I hate Biden, but if he manages to free small time possession and legalization, he may accidentally be the most progressive president in a way. No bets. Yeah. Well, that's the sad state of affairs is that even as bad as Joe Biden has been, he probably will still be the most progressive president in Zach and I's life, which again is a terrible, terrible indictment of every other president in our lives. But yeah, obviously, if the pardoning of the federal offenders of cannabis possession was good, it definitely wasn't enough. I don't think anyone's actually even getting freed from prison because of it. But it definitely got some people's records clean and will help them find employment. And the more exciting thing about that announcement was that he said we're going to review the classification status of cannabis. So that's kind of hinting that, in fact, they might deschedule cannabis, which would effectively lead to it being decriminalized or legalized. So if that happens, then I will seriously give Biden credit. That has not happened yet, but if it does, I will definitely give him credit.
Yeah, look, I mean, Biden's mostly just sat on his hands, right, for the entirety of his presidency, but he did get out of Afghanistan, which I think is a W. He hasn't gotten back in the Iran. So, I mean, yeah, unfortunately, he's just been less destructive than our previous presidents. So that would make him seem like more progressive, but I guess he's just less conservative and less, accomplished at making things worse. So yeah, I definitely see what you're saying. I hope that he does, get so desperate and think that the midterms are going to go so horribly that he does do a last minute fucking, removing the Schedule 1 of marijuana. But I just don't see that happening with him already rolling back the student loan shit, which was supposed to be a big boost for them in the midterm. So yeah, I mean, I don't really think the guy deserves really all that much credit. It's just, but I definitely see what you're saying. And yeah, it's just more of an indictment of American politics and how fucked we all are.
Absolutely. But thank you. Always appreciate seeing you in the chat in Tompkin. Really appreciate the super chat. I think we got one more super chat too. Thank you so much, Alex Khan, for the $5. My big problem with communism is that I worry about the state of food and movies. That's funny. Well, I hate to say it, man, but capitalism has not always produced the best movies. Like sometimes, in fact, capitalism is the reason why movies suck so bad. Like you look at the pathetic state of Hollywood right now, and the fact that, for example, visual effects just keep getting worse and worse in movies somehow. Like since I feel like CGI was such this interesting innovation that led to insanely good visual effects. Like you look at the first Avatar movie. Since that movie, which came out in 2008, visual effects have only gotten worse and worse and worse. And the reason why is because they're exploiting these visual effects artists more and more these days, which leads to them being overworked and unable to produce quality results. This is why CGI in movies today, like if you go watch Thor, Love and Thunder, the new Thor movie, which came out in 2022, the CGI effects in it look worse. They look worse than a movie from 2008, 15 years ago almost. Again, that's because capitalism, because they're exploiting these effects artists instead of just paying for actual well done effects, because all they care about is their bottom line. They don't actually care about the art. All they care about is the profit. So I'm not saying that we should totally remove the system of markets entirely from the film industry. I am saying that oftentimes capitalism absolutely stifles creativity, as Paul says, and just leads to the pursuit of profit at the expense of good art. Again, that's also why we don't see a lot of original movies these days. We used to get all kinds of original blockbusters, movies like Jaws or Star Wars or Close Encounters of the Third Kind. You go back to like the 70s and stuff. And nowadays, all we get is reboots of those franchises instead of our own new properties. Why is that? Because new movies don't make as much money as retreads of old franchises and reboots of old franchises. That's why in 10 years, instead of there being new superhero movies, they're going to start rebooting Iron Man and they're going to reboot the Avengers. We can't just get new shit. We're always just going to be retreading the same goddamn ground. And that's directly a result of corporate capitalism and the endless pursuit of profit at the expense of any sort of real artistry.
Yeah, 100%. And if we throw this clip up, I like to play this whenever it comes up, because if there's probably financially, at least by any metric of capitalism, right, George Lucas is the most successful filmmaker of all time, if you're judging it by profit and sales, right, and what capitalism can produce. So this guy, I feel like is somebody that the capitalists, could understand. But he's famously talked about how, he would even prefer to work in the Soviet film industry. So if you listen to this clip really quickly, you can hear from the man himself.
I love movies. And I know a lot of movies aren't popular. And you can say that going in. One of the reasons I retired is so I could make movies that aren't popular. Because in the world we live in the system we've created for ourselves in terms of it's a big industry, you cannot lose money. So the point is that you're forced to make a particular kind of movie. And I used to say this all the time when people, back when Russia was the Union of Soviet Socialist Republics. And they'd say, oh, but aren't you so glad that you're in America? I said, well, I know a lot of Russian filmmakers. They have a lot more freedom than I have. All they have to do is be careful about criticizing the government. Otherwise, they can do anything they want.
So what do you have to do?
You have to adhere to a very narrow line of commercialism.
So yeah, that was just what I wanted to play, right? He talks about how you have to, basically walk a way tighter line than even downright censorship, because he says all the people in the USSR had to do was not criticize the government. They could explore any other kind of art. And a lot of people don't know this about George Lucas. You probably don't unless you're a film nut like me and Gavin. But he actually, way back in the day, he had this movie. It was a short film first, but he made it into a feature. It was before Star Wars. It was actually before he made American Graffiti as well. His first film was called THX 1138. And it was very avant-garde, very meditative kind of a film. George Lucas actually wanted to be like a surreal, like experimental filmmaker, but he felt like if he wanted to succeed, he had to go commercial and all these kinds of deals. And then just to add to your second point about food, I think communism would be based for the restaurant industry. And Celisa actually pointed this out in the chat as well. We actually are starting to see a rise in the co-op model for restaurants, worker ownership, these kinds of things, which I think would be really based because unfortunately, the way restaurants are set up right now, the cooks and the dishwashers get paid like shit. The servers can barely survive. And then like whoever's at the top of it is also just like kind of barely making it. If you restructure it like more communally, you kind of get rid of the tipping structure. More people have more money to spend on their food. You can also take better care of your, staff inside of a restaurant. But anyway, so thanks so much for the super chat, Alex. Always appreciate your contribution to the conversation.
Yeah, absolutely. Also, why the fuck are we arguing about drag queens and trans people in chat? Like, can we stay on topic, guys? And drag queens are not a fucking mockery of women. That's ridiculous. It's not misogynistic for a dude to dress up as a woman if he wants to. It's called fucking expressing your identity. So no, that's ridiculous. I quit with the turf talking points, please.
Yeah, that's weird. I didn't even really realize that.
Yeah,
But
people are like going hard on the turf bullshit in the chat. This is a safe space for our trans comrades. I'm not going to ban anyone because I don't believe in censorship, but come on, guys, chill out. Let's stay on topic. Also, thank you, Nikki O'Brien. Really appreciate the 199. Always chasing either profit or profits. LOL. Yeah, that's true. Thank you so much, Nikki.
yeah, is that a rap bar? It should be, Nikki. You should get in the game.
Exactly. Yeah. Thank you so much, Nikki. Is that a rap bar? Let us know. It sounds like it. But yeah. All right. Let's stop. We get it. We get your opinion, Michael. Stop. We don't need to talk about this anymore. Let's talk about what we're talking about on the show today. I don't want to drive away people with our toxic fucking community of turfs, apparently, which we fostered. So get the fuck out. Let's move on to our next subject matter. Did want to talk a little bit about Vaush. And his recent comments about the Majority Report. So recently, Sam Cedar was actually out of studio. I guess he was in some conference somewhere. So the Majority Report was just hosted by Emma Vigeland and Matt Bender, I think, and a couple other people that are just kind of like crew members at the Majority Report, of course, because Sam Cedar was absent from the panel. And I actually thought they had a really interesting and good discussion about what the U.S. role in funding the Ukraine-Russia conflict should be. I thought they had a really interesting and nuanced exchange about this. And they were really just advocating for peace rather than further aggression. But of course, Vaush can't have that. Vaush hears the word peace and nope, can't have that, guys. So let's hear him out and react accordingly to, again, what I thought was a pretty reasonable conversation on the Majority Report. But Vaush did not agree. So let's take a look.
And then Top Knee with the 2 $5 donos. Hear about Majority Report getting into a convo/argument on Russia and Ukraine. Sure, I'll look. And then we're learning.
New Wave Libertarian Communists. What do you think about the International DSA Committee / Madison DSA drawing controversy for saying we should urge our legislatures not to send more aid to Ukraine that will prolong bloodshed and enrich the U.S. military-industrial complex? They have since deleted the tweets after strong pushback. I mean, I disagree with the criticism of that. I think that is a valid point and should be discussed more.
Exactly, and I think certainly, it's a valid
Based Vigeland.
point to stake if you're a leftist to be like, okay, we give aid to Ukraine with no strings attached. Certainly as a leftist, I would want to not do that at the very least. So staking out a position that's first.
I like how all of the other guys on the Majority Report, all the like younger, more socialist people, when Sam Cedar is away, they all say shit that he would like smack down if he was
further. Even if you want to give them aid, just seems to make sense. People aren't good at bargaining anymore. They just want to be like all on the sleeve. Everyone's out there. Like, no, it's like we at the very least need some kind of tracking of these weapons, because they're not even only ending up in Ukraine. Much less. They're just going to warlords as people do.
No. What? I don't even know what people mean when they say this, like tracking. Like you give the equipment to the Ukrainian government. Like obviously in a war zone, there's not going to be perfect efficiency. Like there is going to be corruption, like there would be in any conflict anywhere on earth. But it's being used to fight for Ukraine. Imagine condemning the people of Ukraine to death because like there was only 97% efficiency in getting the firearms to the front lines as opposed to 100%.
Also, I like his framing there of every single foreign conflict going on across the world. If we're not directly intervening and arming people, then we're condemning those people to death. Think about how many horrible humanitarian crises are unfolding across the globe right now, most of which, by the way, are funded and enabled by us. But think about how many humanitarian crises are going on across the world. In Vaush's opinion, if you're not intervening and funneling billions and billions of taxpayer dollars into every single one of those conflicts, then you're literally condemning those people to death. That's the level of simplicity we're dealing with here.
Yep.
I mean, and at the same time, like Zelensky's now saying that he's not going to negotiate for peace or like look into that. And
not accept.
What? No, he said he's not going to accept the negotiations Russia's put forward, which involve them keeping the territory they've invaded. He is perfectly fine to have peace after he gets back Ukraine.
Acceptable. I'm sorry. People get pissed at me for this, for my position on this, but I'm sorry. That is
From his perspective, I understand it. Of course.
From a position of rhetoric or whatever, like, sure. But as the official position behind the scenes is what's motivating our actions, it's not acceptable and it's wrong.
Well, it can't be from. We are a U.S.
We're
based
not Ukraine.
podcast, and so the thing is that if the United States is going to play this role in arming Ukraine, we have to be involved in diplomatic talks for peace. That has to happen.
I will say though.
Wait, what? No? What? So wait, because we were giving weapons to Great Britain during World War II, that means we have to be like petitioning for.
What did I say? Okay, guys, for those of you who have been with us for the long haul, Gavin was like, yeah, I want to react to, Vaush, getting pissy about Ukraine. I was like, oh, let me guess. It's going to come back to the 1930s and World War II and Hitler. And of course, that's where it always goes, because he has one good example. And let me just say this for everybody who needs a reminder. Okay, the United States did not get involved in World War II to fight the Nazis. We didn't give a fuck about the Nazis. We liked the Nazis for a while. We liked the Nazis a lot until like right around Pearl Harbor. And then we were like, what the fuck? We can't keep both siding this shit. Okay, I guess we're in and we're anti-Nazi. But it was really the Russians, which is all of the irony in this. It was actually the Soviet Union at the time that killed like 80% of the fucking Nazis. So there's that.
Yep, 100%. And yeah, to say that the only solution to this conflict is a military one, and there's no even entertaining the idea of peace or diplomacy is ridiculous. Again, I think that tells you a lot about where Vaush is coming from. Not every single conflict going on is the exact same as what happened in World War II. Not every single country is Germany in World War II. Not every single leader is Hitler. And that's not to make excuses for fucking Putin. Far from it. You guys know our stance on that. I think Putin is absolutely a war criminal. There's no way around it. But that being said, you can't treat every situation, especially in the nuclear age. Reminder, we didn't have, every country didn't have fucking nukes back in World War II. You can't treat every situation as if it's World War II in 2022 when there's obviously more nuance to that. But also now nukes are fucking involved, and any sort of escalation could literally lead to nuclear annihilation of all of us. So I think that's very, very foolish.
Yep.
For Germany to make peace having conquered France? What? That doesn't make any sense. No. We do dictate the terms of our like preferred engagement. Like we say what we want to happen, and what we want to happen is for Ukraine to retake Ukraine, which seems fine.
Though that whenever somebody brings up peace negotiations or peace talks between Ukraine and Russia, every time I've seen it, whether it was written or someone discussing it, what they mean is Ukraine giving up to Russia, like Ukraine waving the white flag and giving in to whatever.
Yes, every time Russia has offered some kind of like peace talk or conciliation. Dude, this is something that warmongers do all the time. They constantly make bad faith bids for peace as a way of distracting and emboldening people abroad and like taking their side. Like Hitler did the exact same thing. Like literally he did. Like, oh, I had pretext for this, but I broke her now for peace. Why is everyone else forcing me to annex this territory? Yeah, Putin has never, if Putin didn't like want the territories of Ukraine, he wouldn't have invaded Ukraine. Like he's the instigator here. This isn't a neutral conflict.
So let's just go ahead and evaluate our own history for a second, because we've never, ever as a country gone somewhere, taken a bunch of land and never given it back, right? And then had a peace settlement anyway. So we're the perfect natural arbiters for this. Let's not fucking pretend any of American history happened, right? Let's just look at World War II, because it's really easy, thanks to just decades of propaganda, for it to make us let's just be the global heroes of that. No, Vaush, do you know why you're able to make that argument? Because we fucking nuclear bombed a bunch of people off the fucking earth, and Russia was shit scared that we were going to do that to Moscow, so they let us carve up the fucking globe however the fuck we saw fit. We gave a bunch of the shitty countries that we didn't want on the other half of Europe, because Europe has always been racist towards Western Europe's always been racist towards Eastern Europe, so we gave them all of fucking Eastern Europe, and we were like, yeah, you can fuck with that half of the globe. We want all of the like resource rich and powerful part of the world. We gave that to the USSR, and then now and this is after the your Nazi argument that the Soviets were the ones that defeated the Nazis in continental Europe. Again, your argument that you're making right fucking now. I mean, it's ridiculous. We have absolutely no ground to stand on. So for him to be like, it's impossible, it's bad faith, it's ridiculous for us to say, hey, and I've seen some people in the chat asking like what my position on this would be. Unfortunately, guys, it's not. There is no winner of a position here, right? But let's start talking with in reality what has to happen. I think you bring in the United States to say we're not going to add any more funding to this war, and then you start trying to negotiate with Putin, and you say, okay, look, Zelensky, you're not getting back the fucking invaded regions. You're just not getting them back. You're not getting them back the same way that like the United States is not taking our military bases off Japan, Vaush, right? They're not giving them back. But let's just see if we can't work out some like Taiwan type shit or whatever, because you're going to have to give Putin has the stronger hand right now. You're going to have to give him some shit, right? You are. So let's talk about what's the minimum that he's willing to accept and how we can diplomatically negotiate that. Because if your plan is just to keep fighting until Russia's fucked, like, I'm sorry, that's not an option. That is an option that ends with the nuclear football getting used. And I'm not accepting that option. I am an anti-war leftist, and I believe in a peaceful pursuit. And no, unfortunately, I don't think that in a fucking, very like let's have an election, right? Let's have a fucking honest election. Now, of course, I will concede that, the staged election, 99%, probably not accurate, right? So let's get in there with some diplomats, international people, some from Russia, some from Ukraine, some from all around the globe, right? Neutral areas, Switzerland, fucking, okay. And then you have them go in. They do the election. We respect the results of the election. Everybody was dunking on Elon Musk for saying that. That's like the smartest thing Elon Musk has ever said in his entire life. It's like the only one smart thing the guy has ever said. It was like, hey, maybe we should just let these people vote on it and then try and do some diplomacy so we stop the war here. Like, yeah, guy. And of course, he's only allowed to say that because, he's not an actual legitimate anti-war guy. He's got his own fucking checkers game going on. But anyway, it's just all ridiculous.
Absolutely. And as Adi points out, thank you, Adi, Raytheon, General Dynamics, and L3 Harris have increased their average weapons price by almost 35%. They're maximizing their profit from this quote unquote aid to Ukraine. How can Vaush not see this? 100% correct. Don't get it twisted, guys. Just like how we weren't intervening in World War II because we just cared so much about the Jews, we're not intervening in this conflict because we care so much about humanitarianism. As I said, probably 70% of the humanitarian crises currently unfolding are enabled and funded by us. If you think we care at all about humanitarian crises, if you think we care at all about humanitarian causes, then I got a fucking bridge to sell you. That's not why we're doing this. We're doing this to weaken Russia because we want global hegemony and to profit and to maximize the profits of the defense contractors, which have bought off most of the politicians which are making these decisions and casting these votes in the process. And again, that's not to say that because America bad, Russia good. No, don't get it twisted. They're both bad. I'm not defending Russia. We're not defending Putin's action at all. He's 100% the aggressor here. He's 100% the belligerent. And I feel terrible, absolutely terrible for the people of Ukraine that have been displaced and have been killed as a result of this senseless conflict. Don't get me wrong. But people like Vaush want to look at the situation like it's fucking Lord of the Rings or Star Wars or something, and it's good versus evil. No, America's not good. We're also imperialists. We have a terrible track record on this stuff. We have no moral authority. We have no moral high ground on which to stand in this conflict. And using the excuse of, this specific instance is a good idea for us to intervene, that justifies the overall system of interventionism, which led to all of these atrocities that we committed. Just because every 1 in 20 conflicts we get involved in is a justified one doesn't justify our overall system of intervening and of playing the role of the world police, which overall has led to much more harm than good.
Yeah, absolutely. We're just not in a position where we can say we're going to be the arbiters of what goes down all across the globe. We have absolutely no credibility for that. There's no reason that the rest of the world should look to us to be this arbiter of peace and so we should play our part as a single country and send diplomats, right? I just think that the idea of escalating and feeding aid, we already know what that's all about. We know which conflicts we're allowed to cheer for and pay attention to, and we know which ones, the United States wants to exist in the background. So, this is all true. So yeah, shout out to you, Audie the Buck Catcher. Always appreciate seeing you in the chat. I don't think it's a rap line, but if so, yay me, I guess. I just despise unfettered capitalism and dogmatic religions. Yeah, hey, get in the game, bro. Defeat the capitalists from the comfort of your home with your verse. No, I don't know. Shout out to you, Nikki.
Yeah, thanks so much, Nikki. Really appreciate that. And thank you also, Das Bosa Fleisch, for the 249. Didn't the U.S. recruit some Nazis after World War II? You're damn straight we did. 100% we did.
Yeah, thousands of them. Over 1,000 of them is called Operation Paperclip, and it lasted almost a decade.
Yep, exactly. So thank you so much, man. And thank you, Mike H, for the $5. So what happens when Ukraine is conquered and Russia invades Romania, a NATO member? Keeping the war in Ukraine is probably delaying a nuclear war. Well, I'm not saying we should just let Russia conquer all of Ukraine. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying we should try to draw up a deal in which we say, we're not going to make Ukraine part of NATO. We're not going to do this. We're not going to do that. Here's some concessions, et cetera, et cetera. I'm not just saying we give away all of Ukraine and say, it's yours now. Have fun, Putin. Like, that's not what I'm saying. And also, yeah, if he invades Romania, which is a NATO member, then, yeah, unfortunately, that is going to trigger a response from the allies, which, if he does attack a NATO country, then he's going to get fucked up. You know what I'm saying? We would have to respond in that instance because those are technically our allies where Ukraine is not. So that would open a different can of worms, but let's cross that bridge when we come to it. Like right now, that's not what's on the table. So if that happens, then a different response will have to be figured out, but that's not where we're at right now. Hopefully that's not where we're at ever. But yeah. What would you say to that, Zach?
Well, I would say that kind of leaves out some pretty necessary context, Mike. Why did Russia, at least tacitly, and you could say, oh, none of the reasons that Russia's given for invading Ukraine are valid. Only the reasons that the Ukraine and the United States say are valid. But let's just pretend that they're all invalid and we're just taking these countries at their word. Why did Russia decide to invade Ukraine after not doing the full invasion and only annexing Crimea back in 2014, right? What made them go ahead and decide to do this? Well, a lot of people think it's the encroachment of the United States involvement in the region and the fact that there was not going to be a barrier. Look, if you look at the original negotiation of NATO, people love to throw NATO around as if it's like somehow making the United States look good, or if it's somehow like, oh gosh, Russia's doing this. Well, really what Russia's doing is we've violated our NATO agreement with Russia a fuck ton of times. We said that it wasn't going to go all the way to their border. It is, we said that it wasn't going to expand. It has all these different things, right? So let's not remove that very real context here and just assume that Russia is on like a world hunger power mission for Adolf Hitler style, right? Let's not say that's off the table because there are quotes of Vladimir Putin where he says things like, oh, we need to restore Russia to its former USSR glory, right? Which is where negotiation is fucking massively important, right? This is where diplomacy should really shine. Mike, my response to that is saying, hey, why don't we say, again, using what was the bedrock of the entire Cold War. It was why it wasn't a hot war, right? We had this thing called mutually assured destruction. So we go into Moscow and we say, hey, you can't fucking invade a NATO country, right? But we can make Ukraine not a NATO country anymore. And you know what? You might get some extra land out of this as well, right? This is just the nature of, international negotiations. And then you say, okay, but this way we're staving off nuclear war between these two powers. I think that it might be a little bit like it's not out of the question to say that this war could get nuclear, but I don't think it's necessarily like 100% like Putin's dead set on a nuclear war. Maybe I'm wrong, but I would like to think that, some level of diplomacy, we could reach a settlement where or an agreement where, we're not having NATO breathe down Russia's neck. As a nuclear arm collection of states, right, with nukes. We would not want Mexico and all these other fuckers to be signing up in an, nuclear agreement with Russia and China. All right, let me tell you, that would not fucking fly. We would be going to war over that immediately. So you have to understand that from Russia's perspective, we're they're saying we're not going to let you guys kick us around the block anymore as the United States, which is why I also feel like it's not really the best place for us to be in here, right? Like people are like, oh, the Ukrainians have a right to fight for their autonomy. They totally do. But I just don't think that we as Americans should necessarily be like getting involved in that, because it's almost just it is just pouring gas on an already burgeoning fire.
Absolutely. And Mike follows up and says Ukraine has enough oil and natural gas deposits on their sovereign land to directly rival Russia energy monopoly in Europe. Like Iraq, it's all about oil. I think there's a lot of truth to that, Mike. But in the same way, I wouldn't support Russia, for example, arming Iraq and Afghanistan in order to fight us via a proxy war back in the early 2000s when that was going down. Like, yeah, like. Again, just because America bad doesn't make Russia good. Obviously, they're both bad. But in the same way that I don't support us engaging in a proxy war with Russia, I wouldn't support any other superpower, any other nuclear armed superpower trying to intervene and stop us from what we did in Iraq. As terrible as what we did in Iraq was, it probably would have been even worse for the whole entire global population if another nuclear armed superpower decided to fight us over that conflict and escalate towards nuclear fucking annihilation. Again, there's no good answers here. Yes, technically I just think there's no good answers when it comes to something like that.
Well, yeah, but I mean, and you kind of answer your own question here, Mike. I mean, it's about oil. That's the only reason we give a fuck about Ukraine too. Yes, that's why Russia gives a fuck about Ukraine. But imagine if there was all this land and oil in Mexico right at our border. You don't think we would be fucking extracting that shit? We wouldn't be fucking doing all kinds of horrible, heinous shit. And then, and as you mentioned about Iraq, imagine if Russia had started fucking sending all kinds of money and weapons openly and aid to the Taliban, to Al Qaeda. We would have declared war on Russia like that. So it's a double standard that we have because we're Americans, and that doesn't mean that we're simping for Russia. It means we're acknowledging our double standard that is ingrained into the media, and it's ingrained into a lot of our perspectives. And you have to try and systematically unpack that, because we live in America. So yes, we think that America is more virtuous because of all the endless propaganda that we've had. But if you actually objectively analyze this situation, if we were in Russia's shoes and Russia was sending a bunch of aid to like throw off a mission that we were doing in Mexico for oil or natural gas, we would be at war with Russia already like 10 weeks ago.
Exactly. So let's watch a little bit more of this. I know we've been going for almost 2 hours now, so we probably won't watch this whole video, but we can watch a bit more.
Russia is asking for. That's what I've seen though. So
Yeah,
that's
but that's what we have power over. Like, would Ukraine be okay without our material support? So we have a say in the outcome here. It's not we do have a say, and we've chosen that Ukraine gets to be Ukraine. Don't just defer to Zelensky. He's not the president of this now.
But the problem with us having a say in that outcome is that the people in power don't like really feel like there is any urgency to end the conflict.
No, of course not. They agree.
What? The Ukrainian forces are making incredibly quick progress. They're reclaiming, like, every day I wake up and there's like a whole like new swath of land they've reconquered. They're making incredibly quick progress. If we wanted this to be an interminable slog, then why wouldn't we give them less equipment? We've given them like a lot of really good stuff. This is incoherent. Yeah. It's just like a bunch of kids talking about like shit they don't understand.
Which is so funny because
some of these people are probably older than me, but
it's so funny because I could totally imagine Vaush in another universe talking about how we're like this close from taking Baghdad. Like we have Iraq, bro. Every single fucking day, dude, we're bombing shit up. We're killing civilians. We're going fucking nuts over there. We're just about to take it over. Oh yeah, we've got Afghanistan under control. We're just every day we're taking over new shit. No, dude, that's not how war works. In a time like this, endless war. That's what they're going for. Endless war. One step forward, two steps backward. 2 steps forward, 1 step backward. That is what we're fucking doing, Raj. And that's what's going to keep happening. And of course, they're going to keep showing you a bunch of shit about how they're on the fucking cusp. You're reading Ukrainian propaganda, war propaganda. In the same way we constantly piss and moan about other people reading Russian war propaganda, 100% Vaush is reading Ukrainian war propaganda about their fucking massive strides. Yeah, if they're doing so goddamn well, Vaush, how come we're sending all of our shit still, right? If they're on the verge of victory, like, oh, any minute now, I know the smoking gun's coming, right? Like, this is the kind of shit that they keep people on. Every day we're getting closer and closer, and then 8 weeks pass, 9 weeks pass, 12 months. Oh, we just need another 12 billion. We're on the cusp of it. That's what you're arguing, Vaush. You are the nonsense child that, like, it's like it's like that one kid in your AP history class that's like fucking obsessed with wars and battlegrounds and all this kind of shit. And he's talking nonsense when in reality, what's going on is a bunch of really rich people who don't give a fuck about the outcome are just printing cash for themselves.
But like, there's not a high level of thought going into this discussion, you know?
Agree with all the people who get pissed at us for even talking about this and want to teach.
Well, yeah. Well, I mean, yeah, because like you're basically saying that Ukraine's in the wrong for wanting the weapons to resist a fascist invasion. That's what I mean, that's what's being said.
No one's saying that Ukraine is in the wrong for wanting the weapons. We're just questioning why the U.S. is so ready to give weapons here versus every other foreign conflict going on. We're on the wrong side of it. It's like, I wonder why our interests here just happen to align with the humanitarian position. No one's blaming Ukraine for what's happening. Definitely no one on this panel. Maybe some people do that, and obviously we disagree with that. But no one on this panel, definitely not Zach and I, we're not blaming Ukraine at all. Obviously, any country that's going through a humanitarian crisis wants help from other countries. We're just talking about whether or not it's a smart idea, given the U.S. track record and the weapons manufacturing complex, whether or not it's a good idea in order to actually be funneling this kind of taxpayer money into said conflicts, when again, our track record is not one of humanitarianism, quite the opposite.
Like, yeah, that's the thing that's being said.
Teach Putin a lesson, regardless of if it leads to world war or nuclear exchange.
But that's what my concern is that the United States is incentivized for this to continue to weaken Putin, as opposed to like, I'm concerned about people continuing to die. And like,
wait, what? Obviously, the U.S. wants to weaken Putin as a geopolitical goal, but there's also another non-U.S. centric ethical argument for not allowing Russia to successfully fascistly invade Ukraine. The Russians are the ones killing people. We keep unearthing mass graves as we pull them back from the territory. If you want the killing to stop, then Russia has to leave. That's how it works.
Yeah.
Also, what were you saying? Yeah, I was gonna shout out you, Mike. Thank you so much for the super chat once again. So, would you guys be less upset with the U.S. helping Ukraine if we didn't spend the 2000s destroying the Middle East and Africa? Well, not just the 2000s, but literally every war we've been involved with since World War II. But yeah, I mean, yes, if the U.S. had a perfect track record, then I would be more inclined to support us supporting them. I just don't trust our interests. I don't trust our motivations, rather.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, since the 2000s, it's not even World War II. It is the entirety of American history. Since we were a country, we have participated in routinely participated. I'll give you 5 examples off the top of my head. The exact kind of behavior that we're somehow holier than thou and high and mighty better than Russia for doing. Of course, we were wrong in doing it, but let's take stock of what we've done here and hold ourselves accountable. Let's see. One, we fucking exterminated all the Native Americans over like 3 or 4 wars. Also, we went in and fucking invaded Cuba and got Puerto Rico. We took that from the Spanish, right? We bombed our own fucking ship called the USS Maine. And then we said it was Cuba, or actually we didn't bomb it. It blew up and we said it was a bomb, but that's neither here nor there. Then you have all the swaths of America that was previously belonging to what would have been Mexico, but we seized that too. And then you have obviously World War II, but you also have the Philippines, which we conquered and kept for the longest time until World War II, when we decided it would be better for us to sacrifice it to the Japanese. And it became the single bloodiest day in American history, but nobody talks about it because we don't give a fuck about the Philippines. Hundreds of thousands of people died during World War II there when we sacrificed it to the Japanese. So we've got Hawaii, for an example. We went there, we saw, we conquered on our Julius Caesar shit. This is why our entire history, Mike, you cannot tell me a fucking single example except for the bullshit one that they constantly cling to of us going to stop Hitler. We did not go to stop Hitler. Okay, we came because we got dragged into the war on Pearl Harbor, and we were going to both sides the damn thing the whole time. So this one fucking quasi example that people like to hold up of us actually doing something good, no, it doesn't fucking ring true to me. And so I would be upset with the United States government behaving this way through and through from the beginning of our founding as a country. And that is why there is no fathomable way where we can come in here as the holier than thou fucking savers of the day. The only reason anybody entertains that idea is because of the most sophisticated propaganda machine that the world has ever known, and that conditions us from day one as Americans to think that we're the best and that our country is somehow ethical.
Absolutely. And thank you also, Alex, for the $5. I wish there was a peaceful way to protect Ukraine without risking nuclear war. The rich have bunkers they can hide in, but working class people don't. 100%, Alex. And that's the real issue here. If we lived in a pre-nuclear age, I might be, singing a different tune here. But I just don't think that the entire human civilization as we know it is worth sacrificing over a regional conflict halfway across the world. So yeah, if no nukes were involved, maybe I would have a different approach. And honestly, I think that even if you go back before nukes, we would have had to talk about certain conflicts differently if there was nukes, because that just changes the entire equation. That's why it's not applicable to talk about this in the same way as we talk about Hitler and Nazi Germany. We would have had to have had a different response back then if there was nukes, because Hitler would have just started nuking everyone when we attacked him. You know what I'm saying? There would have been a different calculation. Not that we shouldn't have fought the Nazis, but you just have to think about these things differently when nukes are involved, in my opinion.
Yep. Yeah, look, again, I don't want this to come across as cold to the Ukrainians. Obviously it will, because this is geopolitical politics, but look, Russia is doing bad shit to the Ukrainians. I just don't think our country is at all in a position to do anything constructive about it, and certainly not by sending billions and billions of dollars in weapons overseas, fanning the flames of nuclear war, and directly undermining any negotiated peace deals. So yeah, that would be my response.
Exactly. Let's just watch a few more minutes of this before we get out of here. I'm getting a little bit tired.
I'm also concerned about peace protesters within Russia, and if there is like larger conscription for the troops there, because I just don't want more people dying for this war.
Wait, we should stop supporting Ukraine so that the people in Russia who want Russia to pull back don't get hurt by the government that invaded Russia? We should let Russia win so there aren't any more peace protesters in Russia for the Russian government to persecute? This is incomprehensible.
Also,
I think
or we just trust NATO, and maybe people just want us to do that.
It's not easy.
I think I agree it's not easy. And I think from the leftist standpoint, it's very difficult. And we find ourselves not just in the case of Ukraine versus Russia escalation, but in the case of a lot of our societal issues, both domestic and abroad, being cut out of the conversation up until the point where it's like, oh, there's a global catastrophe that we've been ignoring you along every step along the way in terms of like, how do we prevent, how do we like move towards a more egalitarian, more like internationalist position? They've ignored the left the entire time, and they just want to turn to do like a gotcha. Like, well, now that we're literally already in a quagmire that we've created of our own volition, or like that has.
What? NATO is doing a gotcha to Western lefties, and then we created the Ukraine conflict that's a quagmire for us, even though we don't have any troops there?
Yeah, well, I mean, I'm having a little bit of a hard time following this between them trying to make their points and Vaush trying to like pretzel turn them into something like nonsensical, because I'm pretty sure what this guy's saying is that, hey, it was the fucking buildup on the NATO border that actually played a role in this, and that we shouldn't just trust NATO, that we should actually be a little like fucking skeptical about their goals there. And that's a very reasonable thing to say. And then Vaush has to try and like word salad spin it into something that just makes no sense, because if you're like, well, I mean, didn't we actually kind of escalate this over the last couple of years? And didn't we as the United States actually make it worse for the Ukrainians? And no, we're here to make it better. It's like, well, we kind of did actually. So anyway, I don't know.
Yeah, thank you so much, Moros, Sylvian, for the $5. 2-hour coffee break. Yeah, we're going to need that after this long-ass stream, guys. And yeah, this is a totally reasonable conversation that the Majority Report crew is trying to have about how the best way out of this conflict is. They're not blaming Ukraine for what's going on, like Vaush is trying to make it sound like. They're simply trying to figure out the best way to achieve peace as quickly as possible, which, yes, might have to mean that Putin gets some of what he wants, unfortunately. Like, again, there's no good answers here. But sometimes, again, this isn't just good versus evil. You think NATO is good? You think NATO, who fucking what kind of coalition was it that destroyed Libya? It was a NATO-led coalition, motherfuckers. This is not good versus evil. This is not some fucking Avengers movie. There is no good answers here, and simply suggesting that maybe we need to give Putin an off-ramp and provide a option for peace is not saying that it's the Ukrainians' fault, and it's also not in any way defending Putin. So I'm sick of hearing these fucking straw mans from people like Vaush, who want to insist that when people are just talking about how to resolve the situation, that they're saying, well, you're just trying to capitulate to fucking Putin, bro. It's like, you think that NATO and the US are somehow like holier than thou? No. Anyway.
Really quickly, just as one last thing, a lot of people are talking about how, it's 600 air miles to the nearest fucking NATO country, yada, yada, yada. Let's just take a look at this fucking map, right? Because of the agreement in NATO after World War II, 1949, it wasn't supposed to expand, right? Here is the current aspirations to, and also just for fucking posterity, all of this shit is Russia over here. So not only, and do you see how far away from Russia all this shit was when we initially made the NATO agreement, right? So that was what we agreed to. Right. Then in the 50s through the 80s, we had a few more fucking countries, and these dark blue countries right here, right here, and right here. This starts touching Russia. Not so great. They don't like that. But maybe it doesn't technically touch Russia. I think it does a little bit down here. Okay, moving on. Then in the 2000s, we really ramped this shit up. And now you can see all over right here. It's touching Russia. Build up on Russia's border is what we would call that. Now, again, I say if Russia, China, North Korea, all these countries that are like not United States friends, Cuba, they all signed an agreement with Canada and Mexico, and they're allied against the United States. Are we going to let them put a fucking bunch of shit all around here? I don't think so. Now you have more applications expected from up here, up north. This is like fucking Sweden and shit, or whatever the fuck this is. I don't know what country it is. But this is all building up against Russia's border. And the whole argument that people were trying to make in that video was that contributed to the fucking war, and that we're not just able to go and send NATO in to fix it. It's like, no, you imposing on Russia actually acted as, in a way, a catalyst for this, on top of the fact that the United States has been fucking around in Ukraine because we care about the oil and the natural resources. And Russia's been fucking around in the Ukraine because they care about the oil and the natural resources. So this conflict was always going to come to fucking head here. And we did not do a great job of preventing it. So as an American, that's what I want to take fucking responsibility for. And instead of making it worse by sending billions and billions of dollars in munitions and not having any kind of peace talks, I think we should say, hey, maybe we fucked up. Let's talk about how we can negotiate something that keeps us out of fucking nuclear war. But shout out to you, Murray. And I hope that you took a 2-hour coffee break to listen to this 2-hour podcast and charge your boss for every second of it.
Yeah, thanks so much, man. And also, like, what is this with mocking the idea of a peace deal or giving Putin an off-ramp? Like, again, fuck Putin. I agree. But like, what is your solution, Eric? To go assassinate him, to do regime change in Russia? Like, seriously, if there's not a peace deal, if we don't try to give him some sort of an off-ramp to resolve this fucking conflict, then what else is the solution other than nuclear war and regime change, which is only going to lead to nuclear war? So I just don't get it. Like, I feel like I'm like talking to fucking children here who just want to be like, good versus evil. Like, no, it's a lot more complicated than this. And sometimes, yeah, the process of making peace with a belligerent fucking warring nation means having to appease them in some sort of way. Like, I don't know what else you want me to say about this. This isn't a fucking Avengers movie, bro.
Yeah. But with all that said, I don't know. My brain feels like fucking potato salad now.
Yeah, straight up, bro. We've been going for 2 hours and 12 minutes. Great stream, great conversation. Really enjoyed it. Huge shout out to the Patreon community as well. I hope you guys are enjoying the show. Hope you guys enjoyed the show today, but a huge shout out to the Patreon community. Really appreciate the support, guys. Links in the description if you enjoy our show, if you enjoy our perspective and the discourse that we facilitate here. then do consider hitting up that link. It's a great way to support the show, and it's a great way to have your name up here on the shout out screen as well. So a huge shout out to you guys. We sincerely thank you for making the show possible, and appreciate everyone for tuning in today, everyone for commenting along in the chat, everyone for hitting that thumbs up, which is another great and 100% free way to support the show. And a huge shout out to Adi the Bug Catcher. Again, thank you so much, Adi. As I said yesterday, you're going to turn us into vegans one super chat at a time. We really appreciate that, Adi. Thank you so much for the super chat. You have no idea how much that support means to us. Really, really appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you so much. Wow. Yes, Gavin and I will be eating all of the lentils and chickpeas. And honestly, I'll be real. I found that a lot of like ethnic cuisine, and ethnic is like a weird word to use when you're talking about like cross culture, but like non-European, like if you're talking about like Northern Africa, Middle Eastern, Indian cuisine, it's a great way to explore it just like through veganism, because you don't know what the fuck any of that shit tastes like anyway. And it's got so much flavor packed into it that it, you know, one of the things that put me off the tofu originally, and Gavin actually helped me get over this, because I was like, well, I mean, it's fine, but it just doesn't taste like anything. Why would I eat it? And he's like, no, dude, put it in pickle juice overnight or put it in hot sauce overnight. And it actually retains flavor better than meat. And you start to like fucking figure out the tips and tricks to it. So yeah, really appreciate you, Adi.
Yeah, thank you so much, man. That's so generous of you. Really appreciate it. And again, thanks everyone for tuning in today. Really appreciate the fact that you guys enjoyed this live stream. And obviously, those of you who we disagreed with in the chat as well, don't take it too harshly. Obviously, we're always going to disagree with each other on some issues, and we really appreciate the pushback when you guys do disagree with us. Please always, feel free to articulate that disagreement. We really enjoy the pushback. So, even I wasn't trying to get too mad at you, Eric, for pushing back on the comment about the off ramp. I appreciate your dissent. Dissent is allowed here. We're not authoritarians like Putin, so I'm not going to ban you from the chat.
Yeah, 100%. And shout out to you, Christian999. I know you became a member today. You're asking about the documentary. If you want to see the first documentary that we put out, we did release all the footage of our legendary, if I do say so myself, Odyssey, Vanguardacy, Vanguardacy. Anyway, Minneapolis, got to hang out with the governor, Jesse Ventura. So that doc is up, criminally underviewed on our channels for all you guys did bitching about how we don't put out documentary content enough. So go out there and check it out. We're going to put out the next one. We're waiting for that one to grow a little bit in view count. But we've got 2 more in the can, or partially in the can at least, that we're going to be releasing. So we want to start doing more of this, but we need to get eyeballs on it. So make sure you check it out when we do put it out. And right now we have the one on Jesse Ventura pinned on our YouTube channel. You can check it out, how Jesse Ventura toppled the duopoly. Hear all about it from the man himself. Great audio recording quality in that, if I do say so myself. I'm kidding. But anyway,
we actually got some comments about how the audio was trash, but no, I'm just kidding.
Haters.
That documentary was perfect except for one element. Whoever was recording the audio just real amateur, huh? No, I'm just kidding.
It's funny when you get perfect, because Jesse's got such like a booming voice. I love the way it sounds in the little areas. Like, are you kidding me? Like, just like deep and thunderous.
Yeah, and shout out to you, Adi. Adi has watched our documentary like 10 times and promoted it quite a bit in the circle. Well, real true MVP of the Vanguard right here, Mr. Adi the Bug Catcher. Thank you so much for all the support, Adi, for watching our documentary content. And did you I wasn't listening, did you talk about the new one we're making, Zach?
Yeah, we got 2 more coming out. We're going to be focusing one a little bit local in our own backyard about the housing situation in Kansas City and how some local organizers are addressing that. And then we also have a really fun one that we've been working on for a while on the 50th anniversary of Fear and Loathing on the Campaign Trail. So we've got a bunch of good shit coming for you guys. It just takes this is kind of like bigger project stuff. It's not just like sit down, talk, and then a documentary appears. It's more behind the scenes shit.
Absolutely. But yeah, thank you guys so much for tuning in today. Always appreciate seeing your guys' feedback, whether or not you agree or disagree with us. We really appreciate you all being part of our community. Again, appreciate the pushback from those of you guys who disagreed. Our foreign policy sucks. Wow. Anyway, thank you, Jaspinia, for the discourse today. We appreciate it. Thank you also, Eric. Everyone, appreciate you all tuning in. Make sure to hit that like button on the way out. And we'll see you guys later, maybe tomorrow. Who knows?
5 Timers Club, Vanguard. Yeah, if something happens, I'm down to go live tomorrow. You guys have been awesome all week. I was muted when I said that. Peace out.